Welcome, everyone. It's great to see where everyone's from in the chat. Carrie from Vernon, BC. So we're in the same time zone. Nancy, Rochester. I used to live there, actually. That's where I learned swing dancing way back in 2005. So it's so fun to meet you all. We're going to get to know each other a little bit more. But first, I'm just going to start presenting my slides. I sent via email this morning a email to everyone who registered. Oh, I just realized some of you are in my Room to Thrive groups where I just gave you the link, but didn't necessarily officially register you for this. So I will send after this, I will send you everyone a link to the PDF. But I sent the people who officially registered for the webinar a PDF download of these slides so that you can maybe follow along or have them for future reference. Because the feedback I've gotten before that I would give myself too is sometimes I go really fast because I'm excited. And also I always pack a lot into like the hour or 2 hours. So the fact that it's recorded is good because it means that you can then check back in later and maybe pause. And also you have the PDF slides so that you can also click and see some of the hyperlinks. So Katerina from Italy. Oh, yes, I remember you. It's so good to see you again. And hi, Kelly and Whiskey from Chicagoland, Illinois. I love it. All right. So, and then we have someone from Milwaukee as well. Awesome. Okay. So this is the Arthritis Life Hack Extravaganza. Hopefully you're like, what? I thought this was something else. And you are in the right place if you either, you have some sort of arthritis pain or pain of any type really and struggle with everyday tasks or feeling a little overwhelmed and feel like you've been kind of left on your own to figure everything out. And so you're also welcome here if you want to help others who have those challenges. So I'm an occupational therapist, as I will introduce more in a minute. And I know some people come to these educational events because they want to learn how to help patients with arthritis, which is exciting to me. So yay. Oh yeah, Robin. Okay, Robbie's here. Basically my mom's cousin. And so basically also person who has known me since I was literally a baby. So hi, Robbie, so good to see you. So a few housekeeping items. So as I mentioned earlier, some of you might have just come in, that this meeting is recorded in speaker view. So your face will not be recorded and your name unless you're speaking. So if you want to ask a question this should say if you want to ask a question, off the record, if you're like, I want to complain about my husband or something, because we might be talking about like, how do you get people to understand what's going on? But you're like, I don't want this recording to be on forevermore for someone to, I don't know, whatever. You can say, hey, I have a question. I'd like to be off the record. So I will pause the recording if that makes sense. And then, just because there's actually 51 people here now. That's amazing. Thank you all for being here. Keep yourself on mute unless I have called on you. And feel free to ask questions as we go or share your own responses in the Zoom. Whenever we talk about arthritis life hacks, this is something I've lived with rheumatoid arthritis for 20 years. I'm an occupational therapist, which is kind of like a life hack expert. I still learn every single time I do an educational event. I learn new things from people in the audience and in the chat. So feel free, please, to, say, oh, wow, I tried this and this worked, and then, just raising your hand. If you're not really familiar with Zoom, the raise hand function is under reaction. So if you can find the little reaction button, you can raise your hand or you can lower your hand there. That would be really helpful. When I ask like, hey, does anyone want to share? You can raise your hand or you can always share in the chat. And then you can also feel free to put reactions as we go along, like hearts or claps. That's always really nice. And then, so we will take a 10-minute break on the hour. So at 10 o'clock Pacific, 11 Mountain Time, 12 Central Time, 1 Eastern Time, just to catch my breath and your breath, potentially take a bathroom break, and then we'll come back. So this is a 2-hour webinar. So anyway, if there are any questions as we go along right now in the first little section, feel free to put them in the chat. But this is what we're going to be talking about today. A little introduction to arthritis life hacks. put it a little bit chronologically, thinking about like, okay, morning routine, you wake up, get ready for the day. What are the life hacks we can implement there? And then go to work, technology, kitchen, household, and then talk about our habits, fatigue, hobbies, and then relationships and coping, which, that any one of these could be its own separate webinar. So we'll be giving you a lot of tips, but also in some ways, there's still so much more we can talk about. So my goal is to give you tools to succeed in everyday life. If you've ever, I don't know, actually, yeah, put a little heart in the chat if you've ever seen OT Rex. This is what we call him in occupational therapy. So the metaphor we like to use in occupational therapy is that like we give people the tools for everyday living. And so if you think about like a T-Rex, I mean, okay, first of all, I know a T-Rex is not eating an apple because they're like carnivores, but let's just imagine that apple is like a little woodland creature. But then, with the length of the arms, obviously they can't get what they need. But with the reacher tool, the reacher grabber aid, they can. So now I'm going to be talking about physical tools today, the life hack tools, gadgets, and also metaphorical tools, mental tools, things we can do to manage our stress and anxiety that can come with these conditions. So just a quick introduction to me. I like to joke that I've like word vomited my life story all over the internet at this point, but you can see a longer version on my YouTube channel. But I have been a rheumatoid arthritis patient for 21 years, which I'm 42. So this is like the exact halfway point this year for me. Yeah, and oh yeah, Elsie, you're so grateful for the algorithm that put your OT hacks in your Instagram feed. Thank you. Yes, all hail the mighty algorithm. It gives and it takes. But yeah, and so I've also been an occupational therapist for 11 years. I have also been a clinical instructor at an occupational therapy assistant program, which is really fun. And I'm also a mom, a dog mom, a child's mom, a wife, and I founded Arthritis Life and the Arthritis Life podcast and Room to Thrive, the self-management support group program. So this is just some pictures of me. This is when I was on Remicade. This is my amazing rheumatologist. I got so lucky. I got her right when she was right done with her residency. So maybe she's maybe, I don't know, 8 years older than me or something, but like, I'm staying with you until you retire. Like if you move, I'm moving with you. She is awesome. And this is me playing soccer. And this is like, that's freshman year. And then this was like by junior year, I was like, you can't completely tell here, but I was about 20 pounds heavier here of muscle, not really showing any signs of rheumatoid arthritis yet. And then here is when I was getting really sick, but I had no idea what was wrong. That's actually in Tasmania. So I'm very stubborn. I still went on my study abroad, even though I was really, really sick, and do not recommend that. So anyway, got my diagnosis shortly after coming back home. So that's, okay, I cannot get started on my diagnosis story. I have a 40-minute video on YouTube of my diagnosis story, so you can watch that. But this little disclaimer, this information is meant for general education purposes only. So this is not, I'm going to talk about things that potentially could be discussed with you by an occupational therapist with you in like a one-on-one appointment where it's like, I am advising you to use this. Whereas for me, giving you this general education today, it's like, hey, here's some things that might help, right? But none of this is like official medical advice, including, so anything, sometimes people say, well, my occupational therapist said this. I'm like, well, in general, like defer to the person who's actually physically seen you and is your, occupational therapist. That said, not everyone, no one's perfect and we all make mistakes. So it's good to be open-minded too. So take a breath for a second. So we also have a VIP ticket in case you want to get some. I'm going to be talking about a lot of life hack gadgets and things. And there is a $25 VIP ticket that gets you a bunch of discounts on some of these products as well. So I made a little exciting QR code. And Lauren might be able to put the link in the chat too. You can always upgrade to that ticket as well if you want. So here's a couple just kind of teach a man to fish kind of ideas of like, okay, what is the basis of these arthritis life hacks? Well, first of all, we need to figure out, what does arthritis mean? So in general, arthritis means joint inflammation. So this is a very, very oversimplified graphic, but you have bones, and then the joint is the space between the bones, and inflammation is occurring in that space. Now, it's like arthritis is like a symptom, right? It's like saying a tummy ache. Like you can have a stomach ache from stomach cancer. You can have a stomach ache from eating too much. That's like a temporary condition. Like arthritis itself is not the actual diagnosis. The diagnosis is the specific condition that caused your arthritis, your joint inflammation. So as an example, in rheumatoid arthritis, you have your immune system, not pictured here, is attacking the synovial fluid inside your joint. Over time, the inflammation causes like cartilage to be whatever the word, I keep wanting to say dissolve. I know that's not the word. The cartilage is affected and inflamed, and that is the root cause of rheumatoid arthritis, inflammation from your immune system. That's just one example. There are lots of different kinds. So sorry, this slide is gigantic, but again, you have a PDF of it now in your email inbox so that you can look at this if you want, or never look at it again. But this explains there's different kinds, again, of actual conditions that could cause arthritis or joint inflammation. So we have osteoarthritis, which is most common, associated with aging or injury, and it's not considered a systemic disease. Whereas the autoimmune, immune-mediated ones are ones that have full body symptoms, fatigue, organ involvement, etc. So today I'm going to be talking about like life hacks that can improve your joint pain, whatever your condition is caused by. But when I talk about things like fatigue and the systemic issues, it's really about that autoimmune cause of arthritis. So any questions on that so far, feel free to put them in the chat. Yeah, I kind of already said this. Yeah. Also, to be a little bit more holistic for a second, we also might have, if we have increased likelihood of having anxiety or depression if you have an inflammatory form of arthritis. Some people call it autoimmune arthritis. Some people call these ones inflammatory arthritis. And Elise, yes, it will be resent to everyone. Yeah, I apologize if somehow I didn't send it to you. I'll send it along with the recording of this presentation. So also you have, there's a little saying in rheumatology, which is like autoimmune diseases don't like to travel alone. So if you have one autoimmune or inflammatory condition, you're more likely to have others as well. So, okay, so here's a couple principles of arthritis life hacks that you're going to see kind of come up over and over again when I go into the specific daily life hacks. We have joint protection principles, which just means changing how you approach your task so that you're putting less strain or pressure on the joints that hurt. Now, you're probably all doing this. Those of you with arthritis are probably already doing this subconsciously, right? Pain tells you, oh, it hurts to do it this way. I'm going to do it another way. But that said, sometimes we get into habits that we don't realize, we don't think to ourselves that there's a different way of doing something. Like, for example, I'll just stop sharing my screen for a second. I might always pick up my mug like this, not realizing that, wait, if I hold it with two hands and I hold it like this, that's distributing the force across two joints, which is protecting. That's a joint protection tool. And it's also lessening the ulnar drift, which is the deformity associated with rheumatoid arthritis, where our knuckles tend to slide down towards the pinky side or the ulnar side. So that's a little small adjustment you can make in your daily life that will reduce the strain on your joints. I hope that makes sense. So small changes lead to big gains. You know, another example, this is my son, Charlie, he's turning 10 in 2 weeks, actually exactly 2 weeks from today. He's turning 10, which is crazy to me. But this is him as a baby. And I did not take these pictures on purpose to show like one of these is bad and one of these is good. But if you have thumb arthritis, osteoarthritis or rheumatoid arthritis or anything affecting your thumb, what do you think? I'm going to open the chat. Which one do you think is better if you have sore thumbs? Picture number 1, holding technique, or picture number 2? Let's see. Jenny says 2. Oh, yeah. Yes. You're all already experts. Yeah. And you will also notice, if you look closely, I'm actually wearing 2 custom thermoplastic splints that were created for me by a certified hand therapist. A certified hand therapist is a specialty that typically it's an occupational therapist. Sometimes it's a physical therapist who has additional like 5,000 hours training in hand therapy clinics and passes a board exam. So a regular occupational therapist can make these 2. Thermoplastic is this plastic splinting material that when it looks like a big sheet of plastic with little dots, and then you put it in a hot water bath, and then you form it around the person's joint, and then when it's hot, it molds, and when it's cold, it dries in that right position. So these are custom made to protect my thumbs because I had a lot of inflammation after my son was born. So that's just a simple technique that, again, joint protection is one of our first strategies. There are different I like to put everything in layman's terms, right? Because there's too much medical jargon out there. So, you can change how you interact with objects in your world so that your joints won't be as strained. Again, like holding your cup a different way, or you can change the item you use, like using a gadget or a different item. Now, I always joke that I'm a really good shopping enabler. So I'm going to show you a lot of different things that you might want to buy. I'm sorry. I'm like, every day I think of it, I see a new arthritis gadget and I must have it. So this is scissors, alternate design scissors that protect your thumb joint from having excess strain while cutting. So that's an example of you're not using the same item you were before. You're using a new item. Or you can do a workaround strategy so you don't even need to do the task. So that's like delegating, right? Or in the case of like groceries, for example, if it hurts you, if your joints are really inflamed and sore and you need to get groceries, instead of having to go to the store, pick up each item, put it in the basket, take it back out to check it out, put it back in, you can get your groceries delivered. And these are just a couple ways of looking at it. A second life hack principle that's going to come up later is pacing yourself. I'm really bad at this one. So we're all kind of, strengths and weaknesses, but yeah, taking rest breaks. This helps for the joint pain as well as fatigue. And then life hack principle 3 would be like, understand that multiple variables are interacting. So arthritis life hacks and, the goal of our life hacks is to increase your quality of life, right? To feel a more, peaceful, joyful existence in your daily life. And your pain is going to actually be impacted by a lot of things outside of your body. You do have your biological factors like the disease severity, which disease you have, your comorbidities, but also pain is drastically affected by psychological and social contextual factors. So that's going to come up more in a little bit. Also, multiple variables affect each other. So this is kind of the good news and the bad news. I really like this space metaphor developed by these doctors who are all pain experts at University of Michigan. So we have pain, we have joint pain, right? We have arthritis. We have most likely joint pain unless we're in remission, which is like, yay. It'd be amazing if you are. But even if you're in remission, it helps to protect your joints and do these pain management tools because you can prevent additional wear and tear in your joints over time. But pain, affect, which is your emotions, cognition, which is your brain fog, and focusing abilities, energy, and sleep, these all impact each other. So that's the good news, is that improving one of these can improve all the others. The bad news is that something bad in one of those can affect all the others. I'm going to say or answer Elise's question. Does the ulnar drift happen if your RA is well controlled or if you have a moderate version of rheumatoid arthritis? So the goal I'll just stop for a second. The goal with modern medications and modern treatment tools, whether you're doing, a combination of Western medicine and complementary things like diet and such, the goal is to prevent the disease from progressing. And for some patients, you're able to do that 100%. I'll just use myself as an example. Having had it, I was diagnosed with very severe aggressive RA. And so given that I've had it for 21 years, and I've been in remission for like 6 of those years, and then in minimal disease activity for the majority of others with a few big flares here and there. Like when doctors look at my joints now, they'll say like, these look really good, like a very minimal amount of ulnar drift, but there is a small amount of deformity. And that's just the trained eye would be able to see that. I actually have worse deformity, very noticeable on my right toes. So I think that because the modern medications have changed everything about the prognosis for rheumatoid arthritis specifically, but they didn't come out until the early 2000s. So because we're now 2023, we don't actually have the long-term data, right? Because people like me diagnosed at 20 years ago, this is how much it's progressed. Not very much, but it's not perfect. So we don't know yet, right? Is it going to eventually progress worse? So long story short, the idea that what they're shooting for most people is stopping the disease, stopping it so that you do not have that deformity. I'm guessing for a lot of people like me, will end up in that little bit of a messy gray area where it's nowhere near as severe as it would have been if we were diagnosed in, let's say, 1970 when there was no good medicine, but it's not perfect, right? Like if I compare my hand to like my sister, my closest genetic, relative, mine looks worse. So long story short. Okay. So I'm going to touch on the Thrive framework, which this is something that I developed as part of my Room to Thrive self-management program. And it really is basically all the evidence for what helps people with rheumatoid arthritis self-manage their condition on a daily basis. Self-management just means with chronic conditions, they're lifelong, right? Unless there's a cure. So even though we go to the doctor a lot, we also have to 24 hours a day manage our own condition, do things that might have a positive impact on our health. So these are the 6 main things that I focus on in the Room to Thrive program. And today we're mostly going to be talking about the tools for pain and fatigue and some of the habits. Okay, so you're like, when is she going to talk about the actual things? Okay, let's do some life hacks for morning stiffness. This is one of the hallmark symptoms. Hi, Katie. I just saw Katie joined, and Leah. I know some of you from the Room to Thrive program. That's why I'm so excited to see you. I'm excited to see new people too. I'm an extrovert, if you couldn't tell. So morning stiffness is a hallmark symptom of rheumatoid arthritis and actually all the inflammatory forms of arthritis. So you've probably already heard of this, but some of you might have been newly diagnosed. So, heat is typically really good for stiff joints. In the morning, actually, in rheumatoid arthritis, it's called the gel phenomenon, which is when the actual tissues in your joints, your synovial fluid, stiffens up and becomes like a gel consistency. It's supposed to be like an oil. The synovial fluid is like the consistency of oil. It's one of the most like slippery surfaces or slippery materials in the human body, and it's meant to be that way so that it allows your joints to move. So your synovial fluid gels and stiffens up overnight. So things like heat, hot pads, shower can help loosen them up mechanically in the morning. Also compression. Oh, I'm always losing my gloves. I do wear my compression gloves a lot. They can help with that stiffness as well. That said, some people, hot versus cold for inflammation is really like a individual thing. It's like shoes. Some people are like, I like Nikes, I like Adidas. It's just what works in your body. Typically, by the book, what I learned in occupational therapy school is like you apply cold packs to hot inflamed joints and you apply heat to cold stiff joints. But there are some people who are like, well, in my body, I love cold all the time and it works for me. I'm not going to tell you not to do that. Does that make sense? And then I also have this article for morning stiffness. So I'm literally, my foot is in this foot warmer right now. I love this. This is my under desk foot warmer. So it's kind of like it's just really fun. And I also have heating pads. You might also have your own special heating pads that you like. And yeah, tips for combating stiffness in hands and wrists from using a cane. Yeah, that, Amanda, is a hard one. I would think about maybe going to a physical therapist, because a lot of times in a physical therapy clinic, they can watch your gait pattern, how you walk, and they can also in the clinic typically have, hopefully, I would ask them beforehand if they do, have a couple different kinds of canes that you could try out. There are canes or crutches that actually don't use the palm of your hand or your fingers. They use like your forearm. So that could be super helpful. And then, yes, the presentations will be sent to everyone. You can wear compression gloves when you sleep. The one thing that's recommended is just not to be, to have them be too tight, because you don't want to cut off circulation. And so, oh yeah, thank you. Yes, Jenny, I was like, I remember Jenny said something about this. A similar situation, you had a rollator to prevent putting pressure on the side. So a rollator is like one of those, it has like 4 wheels and you push it in front of you, and that can distribute the force over the 2 joints instead of having it all be on one hand. Ooh, great question. Any additional tools for cold besides cold packs, especially in the hands? Let me look in my little toolbox and remember. That's a hard one. I sometimes think that I actually bought these little things off Amazon. They're not the most useful, but they're really cute. They're like literally like 1 inch tall little cold packs that just slip over your fingers like one at a time. And so there are some like unique things that will actually stay on your fingers, because I know it's a cold pack can be hard. Let me grab one other thing. I have these someone in my Room to Thrive group, let me turn this blur background off so you can see, recommended these gloves that are cold therapy gloves. So you put the gel pack in the fridge or freezer, and then you put it in the little mittens. So that can be helpful too. I think, did I have that on here? No, I don't. Okay. So, and then when we go on to, oh, Alyssa, you had those and they worked great. Awesome. Trick for getting the gloves on, Susan. Oh my gosh. There are lots of tricks for getting compression socks on and off. That's such a good question. Tricks for getting the compression gloves on. I wonder, I'm just imagining on top of my head, if there, because the thing that helps you get the socks on is like a little sock aid that has like two kind of prongs on it, and you put the sock over it and then you slip your foot into it. I wonder if we could finagle something like that, to like, okay, let me brainstorm that. That's a really good question. And that's one of the hard things, is that these compression garments can really help with pain, but they can be really tricky to get on and off. Oh, and Linda says, for getting gloves on, warm your hands first. Oh, that's a really good idea. I'm just guessing it's like the amount of grip strength and the pain that might be preventing. But yeah, good. The first question would be actually, yeah, what is the barrier to getting the gloves on? Is it your pinch strength or grip strength? Is it that it's painful to get them on? That's actually the first question you should ask. So for bathing and showering, this is a picture of my friend Lindsay. So full disclosure, I know her. She's an occupational therapist. She created this bendable, adjustable back scrubber. I have one in my shower, and it's super helpful. You can use it to wash your hair. Like you can put the shampoo on it and then go like this. So if your shoulders are hurting or your neck, that can be really handy. Okay, I'm going to say handy a lot. It's going to be like pun intended. It's handy. And also I use this all the time. This is they call it like a scalp scrubber or scalp massager. You can use it as a hairbrush. I also have that upstairs in I forgot to bring it down. I have a couple of these things I'm going to actually physically show you, but I forgot to bring that one. That's really helpful because, right, when you're like, if you think about the hand, if you're having a lot of hand pain from hand arthritis, when you're putting the shampoo in your hair like this, it's just like you're constantly, like opening and closing your fingers, and that can be really sore. They can make them more sore and more stiff. So using this, you're just using like what's called like a whole arm movement. You're protecting your sore finger joints. Oh yeah, and you love her Instagram. I think that's why the algorithm sent you here, Kelly. That's awesome. Yeah, I love her. I love her too. I've actually got to meet Lindsay in real life. One of my few social media friends that I got to meet and become real life friends with. Same with Lauren, who's here. Hi, Lauren. So another thing you might think about if you're getting really fatigued in the shower, I'm actually curious, how many of you can raise your hand or put a little thumb up reaction. How many of you find that heat makes your fatigue worse? So yeah, Ginger, Tamara, yeah, Jenny, Mary Ellen, me. Okay, a lot of people. Yeah, that's one of the it's such a tricky thing, right? Because we're like, okay, heat is good. Heat is good for stiff joints. But then if you're like, I want to take a long shower, and then you're like, I'm really, really, really tired now. So you kind of have to pick your poison, I guess I would say, and maybe not stay in the shower as long as you would like. I mean, or maybe just get like a hot bath and just put your fingers in or your feet in. And I sometimes have to just turn the water down a little less warm than I would like it, so that I don't get that fatigue effect. Celia, then OT gave you the tubes of fabric that cut a thumb hole in it so it compresses around. Ooh, and easy to slip on and off. Oh, awesome. Okay, let me think about what that could be. To be great. Okay, I'm gonna brainstorm that. My free recall memory is not the best, so sometimes I have a hard time remembering like the names of things. A workaround tool, for bathing, because bathing and showering can be hard, is like the no rinse bathing wipes or dry shampoo. It's not something I've experimented a ton with, but it's just something that people have mentioned to me that's helpful for them. So toileting, let's talk about it. That's one thing, occupational therapists are supposed to help you with all of your activities of daily living, just FYI. And so this is picture me at the beginning of the pandemic, my hair was longer. And toileting is one of those. Okay, so no daily activity is off limits for in case you have an occupational therapist and you're feeling awkward talking about it. If your hips are hurting, a raised toilet seat can really help. And then if you have, shoulder, hand, or torso pain, like with twisting, with wiping, you can use one of these wiping sticks. They are a little tricky to get used to. And people are like, how do you do that without like getting stuff everywhere? It can be hard to get used to. So honestly, a lot of people nowadays are going towards bidets. That comes up every time I do a video on, wiping aids. People are like, why don't you just get a bidet? Get a bidet, have a bidet. So we do have a bidet at our house. Actually, I don't have a link to it. I should put a link in my favorite products page. Lauren's putting some links in the chat to some of these. Oh, the links are actually coming as hyperlinks now, Lauren. Remember how last year, for some reason, the links weren't showing up as hyperlinks in the chat. So that's exciting. Okay, yay. So you've already kind of shared a little bit in the chat, but does anyone else want to share anything that's really helped them for either morning stiffness, bathing, toileting? Now is your chance. I should have said before that we can do like a show and tell. Well, how about after the break? If anyone has, a specific thing that they want to share with the group, you totally can. I love show and tell. That was my favorite subject in school, show and tell. Because it's fun. Okay. You've all shared in the chat already. So I put these slides, they're almost reminder slides for me for having making sure I get you guys' ideas. So hair drying, that can be a surprisingly hard task. Typically my rheumatoid arthritis has been involved like my peripheral joints, like fingers and toes, wrists and ankles. But I got in a car accident in 2016, and that was the first time I ever had, neck and back pain and a lot of jaw pain afterwards. I didn't know you can get whiplash in your jaw. Did anyone else know that? You can get whiplash in your neck and your jaw at the same time. You're really lucky. So that was my first time having neck pain, and that's something that really aggravated it was anything that lifted my arm, my shoulder up would kind of just trigger the whole neck pain. So hair drying was an issue, but I got this dryer stand, which is super helpful because then you're getting your hair dry and it just goes on your countertop. It doesn't, there are ones that are like mounted up on the wall, but this is a pretty simple one. Thank you, Genevieve. You use ankle wraps and you put them on before you get out of bed. Heating blanket, Caroline, awesome. This is for the previous topic, but a couple other I'm trying to also give you tools that don't require you to purchase something. I'm just thinking of budgets in mind. So for hair drying, to help with your stamina, letting your hair air dry halfway or longer before drying, or keeping your hair at a manageable length, and using a lightweight dryer. And then you also can, I didn't like the dryer brush. I tried one. It's just for what I didn't personally like it, but a lot of people say they like having a dryer brush. So it's like a dryer that comes it dries out of the brush, kind of a 2-for-1 deal. For hair styling, I am not at all like a beauty guru by any means. So I'm going to touch on these things, but you all let me know because what works for you. Like my makeup routine is literally like a foundation and a lipstick. That's it. So, but in doing my hair, I almost always just put it half up, half down. But, for a free life hack, if you're putting your hair up, using like a lightweight kind of flexible, looser hair tie versus a tight one. And then specific gadgets, like I use this straightening brush versus the flat iron because this requires less like active thumb movement because the thumb is one of my problem joints. The Ponyo, I'm saying that it has mixed reviews. I tried it and my hair is very thick and it didn't really hold it very tightly. So I wasn't the biggest fan, but some of the reviews are like, I love this. It's amazing. You don't have to keep putting the hair tie back and forth and back and forth. It's just like it's a kind of, okay, in this case, it looks in the picture like it's 4 steps, but it's a lot less steps than a regular hair tie, please, I have these and they're nice. They're a way where you can put your hair in the ponytail and then you pull like this on both of those little ends instead of having to, again, like use your thumb and your fingers so much. It's a less dexterity. So yeah, link for the bidet, Alex. I will get that during the break. I forgot to put it on my little products page. Oh yeah, Sharon, you have a sauna. And that helps with your pain. Yeah, you know, and people are different when it comes to like dry heat versus humidity. You know, a lot of people though like a dry heat, like going to what state has dry heat? Is it Arizona? I can't remember. New Mexico? Okay. I find that humidity and heat are difficult on my joints. Like going to Hawaii can be a little bit challenging, but hashtag worth it. So, okay. And yeah, Genevieve mentioned the ankle wrap. For Kelly, it's your foot is the issue in the morning. So you have an extra blanket on the bottom, 3 feet of the bed. All the time. 3 feet off the bed. Okay. Ooh, interesting. Yeah, Mary Ellen, you have a gentle yoga Pilates routine you do before you even get out of bed. That's awesome. Yes, you know, I should have definitely mentioned that. I have this article earlier. I linked to the article on morning stiffness strategies, but one of them is getting your joints moving, doing gentle stretches is very, very helpful. So thank you for mentioning that. For eyes, I think, you know, putting in eye drops really is a manual dexterity task. You have to pinch on the bottle. So if you're having really dry eyes, I cannot recommend highly enough a hot compress. I for a while procrastinated on this because I was like, how much good could that really do? And it has really helped. I put like a wet washcloth on my eyes and then like massage, like the tears come down from the top actually. So when you massage like under your eyebrow and above your eyelid, it really helps get those tears flowing into your eyes. And then there's a droppy gadget here that can help. It reduces the amount of force that you need to use to squeeze the eye drops. And they also have them for the little preservative-free. I don't know how many of you use these. I have to use these preservative-free vials because they're good for really sensitive dry eyes. Just know that you might, if you're having a lot of eye pain, definitely check in with your rheumatologist about it because you might have uveitis or one of the comorbidities that can come with inflammatory arthritis. Oh, Elise, when you're first diagnosed, a lot of people swear by the hot tub. You've tried it and it caused you to flare. Yeah, for me, it's too much. Too much heat it's diminishing returns. It needs to be like somewhere between warm and hot, but not really, really hot. But other people are like, oh my gosh, I live in my hot tub. So that's why we always get these individual differences, right? Okay, and then teeth care. We were just talking about this we have a Room to Thrive like support group that's for the alumni of the program. And we were talking yesterday about how important it is to get regular dental care, especially if you have rheumatoid arthritis. We are much more likely to have gum disease and teeth issues. So definitely floss. I like to use this Listerine floss heads, but I do want to put a plug in for Flouse, which is a small women-owned or independent women-owned business. They have an electronic flosser. I found that I was too sensory sensitive to enjoy it because it was like vibrating my bones, but some people would like it. So, and it's nice because you just you don't have to floss up and down and up and down. Like the vibrations do that for you. And so for brushing, similarly using an electronic brush, that amount of vibration doesn't bother me. It was something about the floss vibration. It was like, since it was in between the teeth, it was like vibrating my cheek. It was weird feeling. You also can have get one of these toothpaste aids that helps with the amount of force you have to use to squeeze the toothpaste out, or use a pump bottle. And then just cannot stress enough how important it is to get those frequent dental checkups. So thank you, Genevieve, for sharing about the ankle wraps. Yeah, and getting in and out of a hot tub and bathtub can be tricky. Oh, I forgot to say out loud, like a shower bench. There's also tub transfer benches. So there's things that go from the outside into the tub that you can sit down on and then kind of scoot yourself over and scoot yourself into the tub. So that's one thing to think about. I just got this recently, this angle head clipper. So thinking about nails again, I don't paint my nails very much, really only for like vacations and stuff. So I'd love to hear any of your ideas, because I'm definitely not like really into my nails. But this, I just got this recently, and it's really cool. It's a angled nail cutting aid that first of all, you don't have to squeeze very hard, and you can even squeeze like this, so you're not using your thumb too much if your thumb hurts. And then you don't have to get into like such awkward angles, because it's already angled for you for your toes. So that's kind of cool. And then you can also make your own handmade nail clipper aid that where you glue it. I made one of these, and then when we moved, I lost it. I should have made another one. But you put your regular nail clipper on like a piece of wood or something that's stable. You glue it on, and then that way you can just, instead of having to pinch, the nail clippers usually have to pinch a lot. It actually requires a lot of pinch strength, which can be difficult if you have thumb arthritis. So you can push if you glue the bottom of the nail clipper on to a surface, you can then just push like this and not have to pinch. Does that make sense? So, and I'm going to anticipate a question that almost always comes up. A lot of people say, well, wait a minute, if you have joint pain, I thought motion is lotion, and I thought you don't use it, you lose it. Like, are we supposed to just protect our joints all the time and never use them? No, it's not helpful to protect your joints by not using them and by like completely immobilizing them. But when your joints are actively flaring, or when you have a just chronic level of pain in your joints, it can be it's okay in my book to avoid positions and movements that cause additional pain and strain on that joint. That makes sense. But you don't want to completely neglect to move. It's actually the worst thing is to become completely immobile. They used to do that with juvenile idiopathic arthritis. They would put kids in casts, like cereal casts, thinking that that would stop the deformities. And it was actually the complete opposite, because if you don't move the joints, if you don't get that fluid moving, it's even worse. And so, so you do need to strike a balance between not overusing your joints, not overstressing them, but also not underusing them. Yeah, Ginger, you got flares in your jaw from dental visits. Yeah, and one of the things that we talked about in our rheumatoid support group yesterday is that it's always good to just tell your dentist what you're feeling. Like, remind them. I have to remind them each time. I have rheumatoid arthritis. I have jaw pain from that and from my car accident. Like, I need to take breaks. I need to, please tell me like how long things are going to take, because I also have anxiety. If you have dental anxiety too, solidarity, it's hard. So just be really in good communication with them about that. And then nail polish opening aid. Sorry, back to my list because I want to stay on track slightly. The under cabinet Jiffy Twist, which is a multi-opening thing I'm going to talk more about in the kitchen section. It can open small things too. So because opening the tops of nail polish things can be really hard. So using the under cabinet Jiffy Twist is actually super helpful. And there's a discount for that in the VIP bag. So just put in the chat, just for sake of time, I'm going to keep going through the slides, but keep putting in the chat y'all's ideas. Oh, and yeah, Kristen, thanks for sharing. This is a struggle for you. Yeah, you're not alone. Yes, being on methotrexate, I'm on methotrexate too. You are not alone. For getting dressed, you can use something called a button hook for buttons, which is just this wide-handled aid that makes it so you don't have to use as much dexterity to get them on and off. And for zippers, you can buy something called a zipper pull, but you can also make a homemade one with just a hair tie, so that you can, instead of having to pinch and pull the zipper down, you can just hook your hand through and again, use those whole arm movements. Yeah. Oh, water flossers. Thank you, Elise. People always mention that. My dentist specifically said to me not to use them because I need it to be really a good intense amount of flossing because of my gum issues. But if your dentist says it's okay to do the water flosser, that is definitely reduces a lot of the demands and potentially strain on your joints. And yet, Angela, your dentist helped you determine you had an autoimmune disease. That's really good. They're really good at diagnosing Sjogren's too. I know a few friends who didn't know they had Sjogren's until they got till the dentist said that they think they had it. I did write this article on Everyday Health that has a whole bunch of links to adaptive clothing. So this is a really exciting area of fashion, I guess I would say. Again, I'm laughing at myself because I never thought I would be talking about like fashion in any sort of public forum, because like most of my life I spent wearing like sweatpants and, you know, for being a soccer player who didn't, you know, care about what I look like. But so I have a list of these adaptive clothings that are made. Some of them are specifically designed for people who are wheelchair users. Some are designed for arthritis, hand pain. Some are designed for sensory issues, which is often seen with like neurodiversity. So, you know, that's something to check out. In the VIP ticket, we do have a discount to Liberaire, which is really cool. Also, small women-owned business. They make 2 different kinds of bras. They sent me one, so full disclosure, they sent me one for free to try out. And so it has, I don't even understand the physics, okay? I truly don't. They've explained it to me like 4 times, and I'm like, like it's like the Zoolander thing where they're like, why male models? Like, I have to explain it the way it does. But it's, okay. It is when you pull it vertically, when you pull this vertically up and down, it's extremely easy to take on and off, extremely easy. It's a magnet plus a little hook thing. But when you pull it this way, it won't come apart. So they said that withstands up to 90 pounds of force. Yes, and it does have magnets, so not okay if you have a defibrillator. Sorry about that. Yes, Jenny. Kyle, elastic shoelaces. That's a great idea. I didn't even talk about shoelaces yet. And then, Maggie, press on nails. Awesome. Oh, so many good ideas in the chat. Oh, we can do what we did last year, Lauren. Do you remember where AKA I delegated to you to put together a list of all the recommendations from the chats? Okay, we'll do that because we can download the chat afterwards. So that'll be good. So this Liberaire is just one example. They have other features like you can hook your finger through, so you're not having to even pinch this, which can be good for people with arthritis or people who are one-handed or people who have a congenital limb difference, meaning they might have like only one finger on their hand, right? So there's many different things these are created for. The other one is has, instead of, this one's Velcro. So this one is no magnets, Jenny, with an easy adjustable front closure. I really like front closures. I don't have full range of motion on my right shoulder, so I can't like easily get to my back. Like, I can't. So a workaround would be if you have a regular bra and you're not able to invest in or afford like one of these adaptive bras now, you can put on the bra backwards, like you know, the back and the front, and then twist it. That's like a little life hack there. Yes, and Kizik sneakers, Katie. Yes, I have those. Yeah, they're awesome. You don't need to you just step right in. You don't need to have a 2-step thing. There's sock aids for shoes, there's shoe horns. Looser clothing is a good workaround. We will be taking a break in about 10 minutes, by the way, just so you know, so we can like catch our breath. And slip-on shoes. So I'm in this picture, I'm just wearing like knockoff Uggs from like wherever, Payless shoes or whatever. But you can also get those like Kizik's, or there's a lot of brands now. Nike's making slip-on shoes. Jewelry aids. Again, I don't wear a ton of jewelry, but there are clasping aids that can help with putting on bracelets. I haven't found the perfect thing for rings. Okay. I bought this ring sizer. I think one of the, it's like literally just me being real. I haven't found anything better that's not $1 zillion. Because okay, you can, if you want to get a ring that's like I don't know what you call it. This is a $4,000 ring in this picture. So like a typical ring or whatever. These rings from the brand Click are like between $2,000 and $4,000. And they're really, really arthritis friendly because what they do, they look like a quote unquote normal ring, but they open and close, like click, or they click together. I have not found anything that's less than, so that like this just silver like band is like $2,000. So the more thrifty workaround would be, if you're going to be using a ring, this would be like for like, you know, wedding ring or engagement ring. If you're wanting to wear like an everyday ring, you can get it a little bit what I'm trying to accommodate for is swelling. Sorry, I should have said that to start with. So the problem for us with arthritis, right, is that a lot of times our joints swell up and down. So we're not a consistent size, right? We might, need a size 6 ring one day and a size 4 the other day. The workaround is to get a bigger ring than you need. And then on the days when you're swollen, the bigger ring works. And then on the days when you're not swollen, you can use one of these plastic little sizers. And this thing is easy to take on and off. I'm a little bit sensory sensitive. I didn't find it like the most comfortable thing, but it's something. It's the thing I could find. So if you all find anything else for rings, let me know, because I'm kind of on the hunt, on the lookout. I asked at 2 different jewelers nearby just to be curious, and they both just said the only one they know is this Click one. Oh yeah, Alice, yeah, silver ring splints. Those are joint supports that are really good, especially for hypermobility. And yeah, if you look up silver ring splints, I should have put them in this presentation. Thank you, Alice, for putting that. So we can put a link to those in the chat. There's different brands, or a link to those in the post meeting email that'll have the recordings and everything. Ooh, nail wraps, Elise, awesome. You guys all have good. So I told you, you all have a lot of ideas. The one on the left, this is supposed to be for clasping a bracelet, I believe, but I guess could work for a necklace. Oh, and Amanda, having a silicone band. Oh, that's a great idea. So a silicone band instead of like a metal ring. That's a great workaround. Hey, see, like I said, I learned something from these. Okay, we'll go to kitchen. Kitchen is a whole long area. Here's an example of the Jiffy Twist opening aid. I use this all the time in my house, and it opens smaller things, even like that. I mentioned a nail polish opener or a nail polish top. And I like that it's unobtrusive. It just sits under your cabinet. You can't even see it from the outside. You don't have to like remember where it is, right? And so there is a 15% discount on that in the VIP ticket. There's also the Robo Twist. Has anyone ever tried the Robo Twist for opening jars? No? Okay. I can't find mine again, but it looks like this. This is the Kitchen Mama, but the Robo Twist looks really similar. And you place it on top of a jar, and it has these little arms on either side. And it goes like, and then it twists the jar off for you, so you don't have to do any of it. Alice, oh yeah, magnetic clasps for necklaces. That's a great idea. Yeah. Oh, I should have said the Kitchen Mama. This is for a can opener. So those of you who've watched my Instagram blooper reel, I have this video where I kept calling cans jars and jars cans, and it was the long thing. But anyway, so you put for the Kitchen Mama opening aid, you put it on top of the can and you press this button and it twists around. So you're not having to do anything. It's not like the regular can opener where you have to sit there and do this. And I like that it's not on the counter. This is me being a little bit, anal, but I like to have things off of the counter if I can. So this goes like in the drawer. So, yeah, Alice, if you have a link for the magnet clasps for necklaces, that would be awesome. General opening aids, Dyson, like it's just a little square of Dyson material can help just with general opening, or these plastic multi-opening aids. This was one of my first TikTok videos I did. For kitchen, or for knives, I mean, hilariously, one time I did a TikTok video of this and my video got flagged for like violence because of a knife. But what I like, I mean, you can see a lot of these are geared towards thumb or hand pain, because that's for where I have my most pain. But instead of with a regular knife, you're grasping like this and your thumb has to be on one side and it's pushing in actively, right? Whereas this, you're using called a gross grasp, and you're actually using one of the joint protection principles is using large muscle movements, some whole arm movements versus tiny little finger movements if your fingers are what hurt. So this allows you to really you're just using your hands to stabilize. You're not actually actively having to grasp that hard. Also, side note, accidental ways to get lots of engagement on social media include using the wrong kind of knife for the wrong task. So I was showing one of these I used bread because that's just what I had handy to show using this. And all these like chefs, it somehow got on like chef TikTok, and they're like, that's not a bread knife. And I was like, oh my gosh, this is about arthritis life hacks. This is not about, I'm not a chef. So Oh yeah, okay, so the cans with tabs rather than the normal top. Yes, there's a tool with Amazon. It's actually from Kitchen Mama. They have a little opening aid. I also, my Lindsay previously mentioned Equip Me OT. She mentioned using pliers. Like the other day, I tried using little pliers on, on the top of like orange juice where it's like a circle with like 4 tiny, 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 did I mention tiny little tabs? So if you use the pliers, you pinch on the pliers and then pull up, you still kind of have to use a bit of force, but it's a lot less than you'd use on your fingers. So, or you can stab it with a knife. That's what I do sometimes too. You can, just fun times. And then, okay, for storage, using lightweight storage, this is called like a one touch, like Ziploc thing. It's kind of, I end up using more than one touch, but for example, comparing this Ziploc one touch versus these ones that you have to sit there and go 4 different little thingies and open 4 different little thingies. That's a lot harder, right? I also use a chip clip a lot instead of Ziploc to help protect the sore joints. And then you can even use a hair tie, like in this picture, to help you with squeezing. So this was like making cookies over the holidays. And yeah, thank you, Juanita. Juanita had to go, but oh, you're an OT, but you don't have RA. You're going to be sharing my web. Oh, thank you very much. Very much. Thank you. Okay. So share any more kitchen life hacks. I'm going to go talk a little bit about meal prep and then we'll take our break. So I actually love these Lighthouse, like freeze-dried pre-cut garlic, onion, and spices. That way you don't have to, and now as I mentioned earlier, I'm not like a chef. I'm not like a, whatever the word is, like foodie who's like, would notice the difference. Like I'm sure it doesn't taste as good as fresh cut garlic, but still close. For other meal prep ideas, buying pre-cut items and getting grocery home delivery to save you all that strain and time on your joints. Also, for those of us who are on immunosuppressants, I use grocery delivery also for just avoiding, all the germs at the grocery store. And then this is a thing I use, probably almost every day, is my Fiskars Easy Action Scissors. Again, they're using like the palm of your hand and versus your thumb. So they're really, really easy to use. Yeah, Prakash, this Kitchen Mama was the first thing you order based on my recommendations, and it's been, oh, that's wonderful. I'll tell them that you said that. And then yeah, distributing the force over 2 hands instead of having your dominant hand taking all the force is really great. Someone earlier mentioned that they trained themselves to use their computer mouse on their non-dominant hand, which I think is a great idea as well. Yeah, Kyle, using fresh and lean meal delivery. That's great. Yeah. I used to use I've tried some of them, HelloFresh, and I've tried the ones that are all the way, I can't think of the name of it. I can't want to say like Freshly or something like that. Actual all the way done meals, which is super helpful. And Marianne, you like grip sticks for sealing banks. Uh-oh, I'm going to do more buying. Don't enable me. No, just kidding. My husband's going to be like, oh my gosh. Okay. Oh, that's cool. I'm going to try that. Okay. And then, okay, I think that, I have one other slide and then we'll take a break. I know I have a lot. We're only on slide 47 out of 113. Oh, well, I'll go faster in the second part. Okay. So for around the house and cleaning, I'm sure you all have more ideas. These are just a couple quick ones, using a long-handled scrubber. I have one right here that's adjustable. This is super great because then you're not having to bend as much. You don't have to actively grasp down here. You have gives you some leverage, so you're not having to strain your joints as much. And then soaking the dishes first, so you're not having to sit there and manually scrub them. Now, I know I'm in the US where we all have dishwashers. I know in Europe and other places, a lot of people don't have dishwashers, so you might not be able to avoid that. And then delegating. I like delegating chores. Anyone else? Delegate to your child, spouse, friend, anyone who you live with. It's great. Yes, and Genevieve, curbside pickup. That's curbside pickup for groceries is really great because you're not having to pay that additional tip for the delivery, and the delivery fee, you just pick it up. I'm in the Seattle area, so we have Amazon Fresh, which is also really great. And then, so anything else you want to share in the chat, feel free to do so, but we're going to take a 10-minute break. So come back at 10, let's just say 10:10 Pacific, 1:10 Eastern. So kind of like a basically 8-minute break at this point. Whee! Okay, I couldn't spell Pacific. Thank you all. Okay, I have to just rest my voice for a second. So I'm going to mute myself so I'm not inspired to keep talking. Wow, Alex, I'm looking at this KitchenAid attachment that dices your veggies. I am adding that to my list. Okay, this is perfect. I love my KitchenAid. That itself is a, arthritis life hack to some degree because you're preventing yourself from having to manually. Hi, Christina. I was seeing you in a little bit. Hi, good to see you all. Yay. Again, it's so great to see some of you that I've only ever met on social media or some of you that I've met in the Room to Thrive groups too. It's awesome. Yay. I know I'm a minute early. I'm just responding to the chats. And yes, thank you, Lauren. You're going to have your hands full with all these links afterwards, but that's okay. Appreciate you. Oh man. Oh, I just thought of something because I was thinking about how cute this package is that that the little, it's a little hard to open, but the nail clippers came in like a really cute little package. And Amazon, I don't know if they still do this, but I think Amazon used to do something called frustration-free packaging as an option. Has anyone ever heard of that? Yeah, so maybe I'll just add that in the chat. Look up if frustration-free packaging is an option for your product. Yes, we will email you. Me and Lauren, or Lauren and I, will email, and it won't be probably until I don't know, maybe Monday, earlier next week. We'll probably have one email that's like, here's the recording and here's the PDF slides. And then later will be, here's all the links from the chat. So that because that's going to take longer to get all those together. Maybe not. Lauren's pretty fast. I'm like an elder millennial. I was born in 1981. So I'm like still sometimes not as fast on technology, but I will say one thing I didn't put in here that a lot of people recommend. Yeah, is exactly that. The little chopper thing Justine mentioned. A lot of people have told me about this on social media, and I keep meaning to try it, and I haven't tried it yet. It's this thing where you press down on it. And so it is that joint protection thing where instead of having to grip the knife and, manually keep cutting, I just realized that I recorded that whole break. So when I do the recording, I'll just edit out that break. Anyway, sorry. I'm like, that'd be hilarious if you could hear me like, no, I know I turned my mute on, but, or mute off, but, I was like talking to my dog. But anyway, so this is like, it's like slap chop kind of thing where you chop it through pushing down instead of having to cut with a knife. So that's interesting. But okay, let's move on to work and technology. And I did put in the chat a link. I have a page that's like all my favorite products in one place. Just earlier this month, Amazon disabled the kind of links I used to have. And so I had to redo everything. So I'm still working on catching up on that. But I also, when possible, I have Amazon quote unquote affiliate links. And then, well, they are little affiliate links, which I make, like 5 cents if you buy something from it. But I also, when available, put links that are directly to like small businesses, like Grace and Able is a small women-owned business by Sarah Dillingham, who has rheumatoid arthritis. She's actually she was the co-mastermind of the original Life Hack Extravaganza and then had to take a step back last year. But anyway, today we're also going to talk about work and technology. So I'm holding this right now, just like in the picture here, this ergonomic mouse. It's really, really helpful for computer use. The thing that might seem really subtle, but what's called the neutral position in biomechanically is when you're standing straight with your hands at your sides with your palms facing your body, like this. Trying to put it near my body. Okay. Anyway, I need to work on my webcam skills here, but the point being, the neutral wrist is this, not this. This is pronated. This is supinated. A neutral wrist is this, meaning, and that puts less strain on the carpal tunnel. Carpal tunnel is a part of your body. People say, oh, I have carpal tunnel. That's like short for carpal tunnel syndrome. That's like inflammation in the carpal tunnel. But long story short, so actually, technically, so these are the two things I use on my desk. I have this vertical mouse, and I have the Kinesis split keyboard. The split keyboard is good for shoulder and rib cage because you're not squishing your hands together, and your wrist, you're not having to deviate your wrist towards the thumb side. Ideally, I would have one of those keyboards that's more like this, keeping my hands in more of a neutral position. I just don't at the moment. So I do like the Kinesis Freestyle. I also, for long time phone use, oh, it's upstairs. I use a mini tripod for my phone, so I don't have to hold it. I do also have a case that has like this thing, or you can use those, like pop sockets, but that's still putting a little strain on your fingers. And then I do have I mentioned earlier, the little foot warmers for the desk. And I also have a little back, like, what is this thing called? A backrest thing and a cushion, tailbone support cushion, because I have a history of a pilonidal cyst. I took it off because it tends to slip when I'm sitting for long periods of time, so I need to work on. So also, and I have a sit to stand desk, which is linked on my favorite arthritis products page, that uplift desk, so that you can kind of press a button and stand up. So I find that switching positions often, I guess, would be like a free life hack. Like when you maintain the same exact position for long periods of time, it can be, your joints can kind of start freezing up. So it's a good idea to, they say like for every, half hour or so you are at the computer, to take a movement break, right? So you also can use, for work and technology, like a assistive touch function on your touch screen. How many of you, I'm just curious, find that using a touch screen for long periods of time makes your knuckles or your fingers sore? Because I really find that. So you also could use like a stylus. So like either a pencil kind of stylus or another stylus for long periods of scrolling, or using assistive touch. There's a lot of built-in functions on a lot of the phones now that are helpful. Assistive touch makes it so that you don't have to scroll. You can just touch instead of scrolling. And then understand that for your workplace, if you're in the United States, you're likely, entitled to formal accommodations under the Americans with Disabilities Act. Yeah, Maggie, the touch screens are tough if you also have Raynaud's. So yeah, that's why a stylus can be helpful in that case too. Of course, it would not be a webinar with me if I didn't mention Taylor Swift. So we have alternatives for if you're having pain with handwriting. You can use what's called the Taylor Swift grasp, which I have a video of it here. But it basically involves, instead of stabilizing your pen between your thumb and pointer finger, you stabilize it between your pointer and middle finger. This actually avoids ulnar drift, or it has less ulnar drift potential than squeezing like this, right? So that's how she's appears a bit hypermobile in the hands, just from what I can see. And so that's often used in hypermobility or hand pain, that alternative grasp. You also can use like pen again, which is an alternate design pen that again takes a lot of the stress off of your first knuckle, your pointer finger knuckle, or use foam tubing to create a built up handle. Most people with arthritis in the hand find that like a wider grip is more comfortable. And then, yeah, Kelly, you need adding Dyson to prevent the chair cushion slippage. That's a great idea. I should totally do that. Oops, what did I just do? Oh yeah, does not watch my video right now. Okay. Go away video. Okay, sorry. It's trying to get me to do the video. I don't want to do the video. Okay. Please keep putting in the chat what has worked for you. Just a few other things for special relationships, like caring for kids. This buckling slash unbuckling aid was actually created by an occupational therapist who has osteoarthritis in the thumb. This is Charlie when he was a baby. And this is him, Charlie, actually, like when the pandemic started like 4 years ago. And what it does is it reduces the force. It gives you a mechanical advantage. So when you're pinching the car seat buckle to unbuckle it, those are really hard to unbuckle. So this gives you a mechanical advantage so that it doesn't require as much force. So if you're caring for small kids, also using zippers versus snaps is super helpful. And they even have magnetic baby clothing and they have magnetic baby proofing items. So you're not having a lot of the baby proofing items are hard for arthritis because they're meant to be hard for kids to take apart. So yeah. Oh, and someone said the pen again is an amazing pen. Yay. I'm glad you like it. Yeah. Unbuckle Me. They were actually on Shark Tank, which is super exciting. And they got people to invest in it. So it's actually in Target and stuff now too. And Mamas Facing Forward is a great resource. There's a website and a Facebook group run by someone named Mariah Leach, who's become a friend of mine. And it's for people who are contemplating family planning, pregnant, or have small kids or large kids and have a chronic illness. And she has rheumatoid arthritis, the woman who started it. For more relationships, this is Teddy, my puppy, when he was a little tiny puppy. I enjoy this hands-free leash. Lauren is a great resource for anything to do with dogs because she has ankylosing spondylitis and she trains dogs and like has a giant golden retriever. I have a tiny dog, so I can use the hand-free leash. Do be careful if your balance is not good. That's the downside of these hands-free leashes, is that you're more likely to be pulled off balance, right? I joke, I'm like, I was a soccer player, I have amazing balance, but if it was a bigger dog that pulled more, it would be hard for me. And then you also could use a long-handled cat pooper scooper. Believe it or not, I have this in my home and I use this for my cat. And it's nice. It doesn't make you have to like get your wrist at an awkward angle, and it makes it so you don't have to bend down if you have knee pain. So that's helpful. Free strategies would include training your dog not to pull on your leash. Easier said than done. And then emptying your large food bag into smaller containers and using, did I draw on that? How did that happen? Oh, Alice, I don't know what just happened. It says that Alice drew on it. I don't know how we'll figure it out. Yeah, thank you, Elise, for coming and for contributing in the chat too. This is just funny. This is from our old house, but my husband made me this raised cat poop. I'm sorry if this is disgusting to you. It's a raised cat litter box, so you don't have to bend down as much. So, and we actually had a little cat door between the laundry room and here, so we kept it in the garage. It was kind of fun. Yes, and Lynn, yeah, the large food into the containers with the wheels on the bottom is a great hack for pet food. So keep putting those ideas in the chat. I'm going to just really, really quickly touch on these, but they are important. We're going to start zooming out to the bigger picture. Not just about specific tools, but about overall strategies. I don't know how to get rid of that. Okay. Hold on. I'm going to stop for a second. Okay. Now I'm going to share my screen again and see if that goes away. Oh, it went away. Yay. So when we talk about the lifestyle interventions or variables that help you manage your condition, your pain, fatigue, and overall disease. Usually people think about exercise, sleep, nutrition, and stress management. And I made these charts based on feedback from my other friends who have rheumatoid arthritis and understanding of the research to try to show you that the balance of what works in your body, it differs between people, right? There's good scientific evidence for all four of these things for helping improve your rheumatoid arthritis and your inflammatory arthritis. That stress management is helpful. Getting adequate sleep and rest is helpful. Moving your body and exercising is helpful. And then some nutrition interventions are helpful. So how do you choose? How do you decide? We don't all have endless time, right? to devote to all these all day. Understand that it's going to take some time to kind of trial and error in your body. And you'll find that for you, one of these might move the needle more than others. Like for Dr. Singla, it's sleep and rest. For Renee, it's nutrition is the biggest piece of the pie. For me, it's stress management. Actually, exercise has become bigger this year too. And for Stephanie, it's about equal. So I hope that's kind of a helpful visual. I've gotten some good feedback on it on social media that people appreciate it because it it can be confusing when you're first diagnosed because it seems like each person is like, no, it's all about nutrition. And someone else is like, no, it's all about managing stress. And someone else is like, no, it's all about exercise. It's like, it's about all of it, but each person has to figure out through time and be patient, which is the hardest thing, to figure out what's going to move the needle for you. But I will put a big plug in for exercise because I would say objectively, there's the strongest evidence. And this is not just from me. This is from the American College of Rheumatology's guidelines on inflammatory integrative treatments for inflammatory arthritis and rheumatoid arthritis specifically. That exercise is the only strongly recommended intervention in the category of integrative health. The others, like nutrition stuff, there are some that are conditionally recommended. Long story short, not to get in the weeds, but exercise and movement is associated not only with less fatigue and stiffness, but better sleep, better mood, better cognition. We have so few things we can do to help with brain fog, and exercise is one of them. So increase or decrease risk of cardiovascular and then decrease risk of osteoporosis. So now the devil's in the details at figuring out your just right amount of exercise. I will say it's kind of like heat we mentioned earlier. Some people, it's like you're going to have worse pain and fatigue if you overdo it with exercise. So I always recommend starting small and building slowly. So, and thank you all for putting some hands-free leash options and the small businesses too. I'm going to put some of these links that you all shared. I'm going to try some of them. And then if I like them, I'll put them on my recommended page too. I don't really necessarily want to give Amazon like all the money because they're not nice. Okay. So, I think a really interesting study showed that an exercise intervention actually not only improved fatigue, but sleep quality, which was exciting. Because again, a lot of us raise your hand if you have difficulty sleeping. Just anyone else? Or yeah, inadequate sleep. It's really common. We're going to talk more about sleep in a minute, but so anything we can do to move the needle on sleep is going to be helpful for mental health and fatigue. So exercise, surprisingly, I guess not too surprisingly, because you're exerting energy, so then you sleep better afterwards. Yeah, Heather, struggling with what your new routine should look like. And I think I like the advice one of the physical therapists I work with before gave me, which is like, start off with like 80% of what you think you can do so that you don't overdo it. Because sometimes in the moment, your endorphins are released when you exercise and you feel good, and then you keep going, and then you actually accidentally overdo it. So, I would say start with exactly, in general, I try to keep things simple, which it's not easy for me to keep them simple, but like, what is my body able to do right now? And can I challenge myself a little bit beyond that? Like, let's say right now you can comfortably walk for 10 minutes. Okay, can I increase the length of time and the intensity of the walking? Can I try to walk for 15 minutes? Can I try to walk, maybe alternate between speed walking and slow walking for 12 minutes? Can I just increase the challenge a little bit each day? And then also there's the 3 pillars of exercise for arthritis: strengthening, get the heart pumping, cardio, in other words, and stretching. So can I target each one of those? Maybe I'll do 10 minutes of walking, 5 minutes of weightlifting, and 5 minutes of stretching. Try to get each one instead of only focusing on cardio or only focusing on strengthening. That would be my advice to get started, and make it fun. Make, whatever. I mean, I'm kind of a freak because I like exercise. So I know not everyone does, but I like to get on the exercise bike because it does feel good. And this is the exercise bike I have. It folds up, so it's good for like small spaces. Yeah, and Kyle, you were used to run, bike, and swim a ton when you're a kind of a snob about it, but we decided to take a water Zumba class. It was really fun. Yes, most people with arthritis find that water-based exercise is super, super enjoyable, sustainable, fun, and it is good on your body. So thank you for mentioning that. And yeah, I also had to deal with being like a snob about exercise. I used to be really, really fit and had to be like, okay, I'm starting with 7-pound weights, and I have a little example, like home exercise routine that you could try from my YouTube channel here. And again, a little reminder of the big picture that everything is interrelated. And I would add exertion or exercise into the E field as well. So, that we saw earlier, right, that the exercise intervention resulted in better sleep, better energy, and it also results in like less pain. So, and for me, I definitely feel my mental health is a bit better when I exercise. So that's just something to consider. I'm going to very briefly mention nutrition, but before I do, a little disclaimer, that it's a very emotionally loaded topic to talk about nutrition for a lot of people, and people with a history of eating disorder are more likely to develop something called orthorexia, which you might not have heard of, but it's an eating disorder where people develop an excessive preoccupation with avoiding foods perceived to be unhealthful and only, eating clean, only eating a perfect diet. And that's something that I unfortunately notice pretty predominantly in the autoimmune world, that a lot of people become very obsessive about their eating and attached to the idea that they have to eat a certain way, and that will either cure or heal their condition. And so for me, I would say what I have found helpful, having all that in mind, is to focus on what are the positive benefits of food choices you can make. What are the foods that feel like they're going to help your health versus avoiding negative. So going towards a positive versus away from a negative. So saying, I know that blueberries have antioxidants and fiber, and those are good, things. Those are anti-inflammatory things. And I every day eat like a little, oh, thank you. So, yeah, people are saying thank you for the disclaimer. Here's here's a little picture of my little parfait I have every morning with blueberries, cashew yogurt, which has some probiotics in it, and then this is my little guilty pleasure, the Whole Foods. They're called hazelnut pillow cereal. They have chocolate hazelnut in the little middle, like Nutella in the middle of like a little corn cereal. None of those things in the cereal are particularly anti-inflammatory, but I figure I'm getting the cashew butter or cashew yogurt and the blueberries. Those are good. And I feel like I'm going towards a positive versus away from a negative. And nutrition is just one of the tools that can be in your toolbox. So in the American College of Rheumatology Integrative Health Guidelines, this is a huge resource that I find very helpful. They most strongly recommended the engagement and exercise, as I mentioned. Aquatic exercise is on there though too. And then Mediterranean style diet is the only specific diet that is recommended. And this is based on hundreds of research studies. That doesn't mean that in your specific body, you might find a different eating pattern, like vegan works super well for you. This is talking about the population of the 1.5 million adults in the United States living with rheumatoid arthritis. When you look at groups, the large groups of people, overall, the Mediterranean style diet is the recommended one. So this is where we have to kind of find that balance between knowledge about what the science says and then what my one of my colleagues calls self-evidence. So there's scientific evidence based on these large populations, and then there's the self-evidence of your own life, right? You're like, well, there's no study I'm aware of, but I find when I avoid dairy and wheat and fried foods and I eat more vegetables, I feel really good. So I'm just going to do that, So anyway, I'm trying not to go down the rabbit hole, but it's hard not to. The other I call sleep the forgotten lifestyle factor, because people are always like, diet, exercise, diet, exercise, diet, exercise. What about sleep? Sleep is a lifestyle variable. And not only that, it's a human need, right? We actually will die if we don't sleep, in the same way that we will die if we don't eat, right? So I'm a big sleep diva. I'll have to link to the Etsy store. I made an Etsy store finally, and then I messed something up on the t-shirt part. But anyway, but the mugs are on there. The sleep diva mugs. Be a sleep diva. Protect your sleep. Do not apologize for needing sleep. Okay, that's my pep talk. Yeah. Oh, thank you, Maggie. Sarah Ballantyne, who did the research on paleo and autoimmune. I have her paleo book. It's really good. Her cookbook. I have that because I tend to default to, convenience foods and processed foods. And so I find paleo recipes helpful because to remind me to eat like whole foods. And how, yeah, that's great. That's great. Thank you. And low FODMAP, Angela, I also follow low FODMAP because I also have GI issues. So thank you all. Oh, so many ideas. Okay. So people who have poor sleep and who have rheumatoid arthritis and rheumatic diseases have worse pain, worse fatigue, worse inflammation. So better sleep leads to a better quality of life. You've probably heard of sleep hygiene, but just in case you haven't, it's just about it just means the habits and routines around sleep. I finally, after like literally 4 years of doing all my stuff with Arthritis Life and telling people to do this, I finally did it. I finally took my phone out of the bedroom. So, better late than never. So now I don't have my phone in my bedroom and I avoid electronics other than my Kindle, which is a non-blue light. So having a consistent routine. You can see all these out there. Honestly, it's not hard to know what to do. It's hard to actually do it. So yeah. And I think, Katerina, you're also diagnosed with fibro recently. That's really hard. Yes. I'm glad you mentioned fibro. And I also want to mention a huge caveat is that it's easy to overdo it with fibromyalgia. So the research I'm citing about how important exercise is, that is for people with rheumatoid arthritis only. Unfortunately, most of the studies, it makes sense, but they exclude people who have any other diagnosis. So the studies are just on rheumatoid arthritis people with rheumatoid arthritis only. Now, I said earlier, a lot of us have multiple conditions, right? So, but most studies are not done on people with 2 or more conditions. They want to just isolate one thing at a time. So let's look at people with rheumatoid arthritis and exercise. And they don't look at people with rheumatoid and fibro. Fibro, your body's a little bit more sensitive. So like just like people at Katerina and Jenny are saying, it is easier to accidentally overdo it. I think if I had fibro too, I would maybe go, yeah, you mainly feel worse, even if you start slowly. I would break it up throughout the day and maybe see if in your case, maybe cardio is something that you're not going to want to increase. You might want to just say, okay, I can do 10 minutes of walking. Anything more than 10 minutes of walking, I just feel like crap. But I'll just maintain that 10 minutes of walking. But maybe with strengthening, I can see maybe strengthening if I start with 5-pound weights or 7-pound weights, maybe I can slowly work up and that won't cause a flare. But I really feel for you if you have that because it is hard. The other one that I would say major caveat about exercise is ME/CFS, myalgic encephalomyelitis chronic fatigue syndrome. The hallmark symptom of that is post-exertional malaise, feeling like crap after you exercise. And so it's like almost like I know I don't have ME/CFS because I so consistently feel good after exercise, unless I really overdo it. I always use this real example from my life. I went from doing my 20 to 30 minutes of exercise bike and my small amount of weightlifting to doing a 4-hour hike with my brother when he was in town from New York. Obviously, I felt like crap. Like there was not a mystery to me. Like I totally pushed it way too hard, too fast. So, but sometimes we do things because they were worth it to us in the moment. But in general, I feel considerably better after I exercise. But if you feel worse after you exercise, you have ME/CFS, you're going to want to take a different, again, much slower approach. Most people find that certain kinds of exercise will induce fatigue more than others. So maybe, again, like I mentioned earlier, maybe you can get away with pushing things on your strengthening routine, but then you have to dial back on the cardio. A trick that runners that have injuries use is when they come back, they switch to a different category. If they were road runners, they switch to trail. I like that. Yeah. So you don't compare what you used to do. I love that. Super beautiful reframe. Yeah. Kelly, you would like to live in 6-foot deep water at all times. Yeah. Interesting. I have someone, I'll put here, Cheryl, to send link to aqua yoga person. I interviewed someone from a podcast about aqua yoga and she talked all about, it's not just about the water providing the buoyancy. There's something about how the water affects like your lymph system that's really, really helpful with inflammatory arthritis too. So yeah, get that mermaid life, Kelly. I love it. So fatigue, quick note on fatigue. It is not sleepiness. When you have autoimmune fatigue, it is profound exhaustion, can be accompanied by mental fatigue and decreased ability to move your body. So it is not just from one source. This article I really, really recommend, Fatigue and Chronic Inflammation, a link to pain pathways from 2015, which I can't believe is almost 10 years ago, but talks about the interrelationship between fatigue, pain, psychological disturbance, which I'm like, okay, you can call it disturbance, but like, wouldn't you feel anxious or depressed if this was happening to you, you know? And then disease activity. So know that fatigue is complex, but a few really simple things, little life hacks for fatigue, pacing yourself, again, easier said than done, but an example could be, finding ways to use less energy during the same task. So using a shower chair, shower bench instead of standing in the shower can help you preserve some quote unquote spoons, for those of you who've heard the spoon theory, and delegating things, chunking them into parts. And a really big thing for me has been identifying my additional fatigue triggers. So lack of sleep can trigger fatigue, even though fatigue doesn't mean sleepiness. Lack of sleep can exacerbate it. For me, sunlight independently and heat independently, and then those two together are horrible for me for fatigue. Anyone else get worse fatigue when you're either in the sun or hot? It's more common in lupus, but it is common somewhat in inflammatory arthritis. Then also overexertion, as mentioned earlier. So pushing yourself beyond your normal amount. And there are also, I'm saying this a little, I know I'm being recorded, but a little off the record. There are doctors who will prescribe stimulant medication for autoimmune fatigue. So I'm talking Adderall, Ritalin, stimulants that are used for like ADHD. My doctor had not heard of it happening, but I have talked to other doctors at like the conferences and heard numerous people in the Room to Thrive support groups have said that their doctors have done this. So I don't know whether it's considered ethical or not, but it is possible. And there are other, in general, a lot of doctors will take the approach, rheumatologists usually take the approach that if we get your disease under control with the medications, you should have less pain and less fatigue. However, fatigue is complex and sometimes it flares up even when the rest of your disease is under control. So it's a little complicated. Oh, Wellbutrin is also off-label for fatigue. Thank you. Yes, Marianne, working with a personal trainer who also has RA. Meg's Fitness. Yes, also Move to Live personal trainer. Also Ashley Ashnick Warrior Fitness. Also, they're both really great too. And I've heard great things about Meg too. So please, feel free to keep putting those links in the chat. Energy conservation is just thinking ahead about how you can save yourself energy in the following day. So maybe meal prep the night before, plan your life around your circadian rhythm. Like I'm an early bird. I planned this webinar to be this time of day because this is when my brain tends to work the best. Other people, if you're a night owl, you would do opposite, right? If you had the luxury of being able to control your schedule. And then, and really, really important, if you are consistently feeling extremely fatigued and you feel like you are getting inadequate sleep on top of it, know that having rheumatoid arthritis, ankylosing spondylitis, or psoriatic arthritis puts you at much higher risk of sleep apnea and other sleep disorders, even if you have no other risk factors. Even if you don't, sorry, my webcam thing is like off center. It's driving me nuts. Okay. Even if you don't snore and even if you're not overweight, you still can have sleep apnea. I didn't know that. So I got a sleep study that was scheduled for like March 20th, 2020. That's the pandemic. So then I got rescheduled and then I just did it at home. And apparently the home ones aren't as good. Yeah, I've had numerous people in the Room to Thrive groups who have gotten a sleep apnea diagnosis, gotten a CPAP machine, and they're like, my life is better now. So much better. Yeah. Okay. So please feel free to share. Another thing is just thinking about, we talked, a little bit about, Maggie talked about running, and maybe if you used to be good at something in a certain way, it's hard to go back to that activity and not be able to do it the way you used to. So one of the things that we talk about in the Room to Thrive support group is connecting to our values, figuring out what ways we can still connect to our values even with our chronic illness. So, there's some of the values you might have would be like friendships, spirituality, health, art. There's always a lot of artistic people. I've noticed that. I always joke like putting the art in arthritis, but a lot of people that I encounter who have arthritis on social media and stuff are, really good crafty people, or make sweaters, or, make paintings and stuff, maybe giving back to the world, advocacy, romantic relationships, learning can be one of your values. And a lot of times, we get fixed. A lot of times when people get diagnosed with something that's so complex and big, like rheumatoid arthritis, we kind of make our whole life about eliminating our symptoms. And instead of remembering the opportunities we still have to live according to our values, right? And participate joyfully and meaningfully in the things that are still possible in our lives. So, for example, I value friendships, but my health-related barrier is that I can't stay out late with my friends due to my fatigue. So the opportunity would be, can I nourish this friendship in a new way? I'm joking just at my wording, but via a phone call, or if my friends all want to go out at night, can we have brunch, instead of going out, and advocating for yourself in that way so you don't lose your connection to the things that you value. Oh, I see Angela, do you have a question, or is that a hand up from earlier? It might be a hand up from earlier. Okay. I'll let me know if you want to share something. And if your disease is interfering with your daily activities or your valued activities, there's kind of two different approaches, right? You can modify the activity or choose another one. Like, Maggie was saying earlier about choosing, instead of road running, or you could do triathlon training or something like that. I don't even know if that makes sense, but, swimming instead of running, that would be the different activity. Or you can modify the activity. Like, instead of hiking up the steep mountains, can you pick flatter, easier hiking paths or shorter amounts of time? So that's just one thing. Oh, Lorraine. Hi, Lorraine. Yeah, sending voice memos back and forth. My sister does Marco Polo. I don't know if anyone else does Marco Polo. Those are like little cute little short videos you send back and forth, which is really fun. Oh yeah, okay. So Maggie, sleep until you wake up instead of using an alarm as much as you could. Nice. Thank you. That's an awesome hack. And Katie, you were going to say Marco Polo too. Okay, awesome. Just a few, again, we know I understand we're about 15 minutes away from wrapping up. So I just want to put a couple of tips that have worked really well for social life, addressing our friendships, our relationships in our lives. The first thing that can be really challenging is just explaining what you have to your friends and family, right? And the words that we use can make a huge difference. So some people with like rheumatoid arthritis, for example, find that it's better for them altogether to just avoid the word arthritis, because a lot of times people hear arthritis and they immediately think it's just in your fingers, it's just in your knees, it's just wear and tear, it's not a big deal, right? So some people would say, instead of saying I have rheumatoid arthritis, they might say I have an autoimmune disease or a chronic illness, or they might say rheumatoid disease instead of arthritis. And you might say, you might say an autoimmune form of arthritis, or an autoimmune condition that involves joint pain and other symptoms. You can also choose to be vague and just say I'm having some health issues. I think that's one I tend to forget, because I want to be like really specific usually, but sometimes it avoids all these rabbit holes people can go down, and you having to sit there and do the emotional and mental labor of like explaining everything about arthritis. Oh, thank you, Kelly. Yeah, I mean, maintaining connections in an adaptive way. I'm glad that was helpful. It's been helpful for me too. So I also think, how they say, I don't know how many of you have kids, but if you've ever heard that thing that like kids, sometimes they need to hear something from someone, not their parents, where they'll listen, the teacher said the same thing that I said, but they listen to the teacher or the coach. So I honestly think I've noticed that this is the case with arthritis, that sometimes people need to hear it from someone else. So you've tried to explain to them 5 times what a rheumatoid arthritis is. Maybe send them RA Guy's 60-second guide, or, there's an article, How I Explain It to Friends and Family. I made a whole podcast episode meant to be something people can share with friends and family. Like, it's not just joint pain, 8 things everyone who loves someone with arthritis should know. I recently installed this thing on my website, and it was like, your titles are too long for search engine optimization. I was like, yes, I know. Anyway, and then there's a patient article that talks about what does rheumatoid arthritis feel like. I hate to say it, but sometimes people just find it easier to understand someone else's story than the people that they know and love. I don't really understand why that is. It just is something that I've noticed. Okay. So feel free to use other people's examples. And if you have any good examples here, Chronic Eileen has a lot of great articles too. Yeah, Maggie, you found an article, how to support someone with autoimmune disease, send it to friends because you couldn't think of what to ask. That's beautiful. You can also develop an elevator pitch. Here's just an example of an elevator pitch. If you've heard of that, it's like used in businesses to be like, this is, I'm going to pitch someone like my product, but you do it for your condition so that you don't have to be overwhelmed with what you're going to say. You can practice your elevator speech. That's something that can be helpful. One last thing on relationships is like romantic relationships. I mentioned earlier with toileting that like occupational therapists are supposed to be able to, help with anything that's a daily activity or a weekly activity or, however, whatever it is for you. And, physical intimacy, it can be challenging, right? If you have pain of any type, whether it's arthritis or fibromyalgia or an injury, physical intimacy can be difficult. So my first step for me is like remembering that intimacy is not just about physical sex acts. Okay, Trigger, we're gonna talk about sex for a minute. So if you have like small kids or whatnot in the room, I did once I started like launching into this and someone was like, oh wait, I gotta mute you for a second because I've got my kids. Oh, Kari, Eileen's a friend of yours. That's amazing. Oh, she's amazing. No, I love her so much. I'm constantly sharing her stuff. I've met her in real life too, actually, at the conferences, the rheumatology conferences. Okay, but so when it comes to physical or intimacy, thinking about intimacy as a emotional closeness, not just about physical acts. The emotional bond is a big part of it, whether you have a chronic illness or not. Remembering that is a good starting point for me, at least. And I did this podcast episode, one of my very first ones, with Allie, Paulina, Chloe, and Joe about like everyone's stories and tips for relationships and intimacy and sex with arthritis. Those of us who consider ourselves like quote unquote young people with arthritis, I'm 42, but I'm young for arthritis maybe, but it can be frustrating that a lot of like the resources out there are towards like the older adult or elderly population, which, is valid because the majority of people with osteoarthritis are older adults, right? 60 and over. But so I wanted to make some for younger people basically. And so some of the strategies that we talked about in this episode, and there's links in the episode too, to I should have put a link to it here, sorry, but there are links to other resources like guides. There's like PDF guides that talk about physical positions that might help, using pillows to prop yourself, exploring alternative ways like using a vibrator, trying your analgesics, your pain reducing medicines or heat or tools before engaging in sexual activity can be really, really helpful. And I also can send, if anyone's interested in like the family planning and fertility side of things, I can also send you some resources. In 2020, the American College of Rheumatology put out a guideline about the safety of various rheumatic disease medications with pregnancy and postpartum and breastfeeding and stuff. So last thing I always like to talk about is actually my favorite thing to talk about, but we only have about 10 minutes. That's okay. But really, I kind of alluded to this in the values part, but it's a lot of people focus all of their energy towards making their symptoms go away, like reducing pain, reducing fatigue, and attempts to maybe heal or put your disease in remission, which that is, of course, important, right? Pain is something that our brains immediately want to go away. But for those of us with chronic illness, it is going to be, I would say, very helpful for you to focus some of your energy around working around it, saying, okay, let's assume that I can get my pain to maybe a manageable level through focusing on these ways of making the bad things in my life go away. But what if I still have some pain? What if I still have some lingering fatigue? There are ways to still work around that or thrive despite that, and focusing on what you can still do despite your condition, to me, has been kind of like a missing link. It's been a mindset shift that around acceptance, which is kind of like a bad word. People think for chronic illness, you're like, no, I don't want to accept this, but I'm going to give you my 10-minute elevator pitch for acceptance. And maybe that will inspire some of you. But what I wanted my journey to look like is this hero is the journey, right? The diagnosis of RA is the problem. I surmount it. I climb the mountain. It's not to scale drawing. And then problem solved, go back to normal. And that's what a lot of people, they kind of are like, I'm putting everything on hold so I can try to figure out my arthritis and then I'll fix it and then I'll be better again. What ends up, I'm going to tell you what my journey has actually looked like. And I'm not alone in this. A lot of people, this ends up happening is that you get excited, something's going to help, but then some of the problems are persisting. So you feel bad again, but then you start learning to distinguish between your solvable problems and your unsolvable problems. But then you maybe experience ups and downs. The idea is it's not just one mountain. It's a perpetual journey and up and down, up and down. And to make things more exciting, it's not the same mountain, right? Each time it's new, it's different. Your body changes. Maybe last week I could do 30 minutes on the bike. Today I'm doing 16 minutes on the bike and suddenly I feel like I'm going to faint. I'm so tired. It's very frustrating, right? You're like, they say insanity is doing the same thing and expecting a different result. But when your body gives you a different result every day and you wake up in a new body every day, you're like, I feel insane, and I'm sorry to use that word, but I'm just using the quote of, doing the same thing and expecting a different result. So what can we do about this, right? There's kind of those two doors. There's say, well, I'll just figure it out. Or, oh, hi, Yushua. Or you can say, accept that actually this is it. The journey is not one mountain to climb. It is a series of ups and downs and say, I can learn to cope with this and develop self-compassion and maintain a sense of like vibrancy and joy in my life, despite all these ups and downs, rather than kind of putting all your happiness on hold. Say, okay, I'm going to wait to be really happy. I'm not going to be able to be happy until I figure out my arthritis. That I'm telling you, after 21 years into this, is probably not the most helpful standpoint, because you might find yourself 20 years being like, I'm still waiting to figure it out. Like, instead of saying, no, wait, what's possible now? So the first step for that me is distinguishing between what you can and can't control. Unfortunately, there is this remaining gray area, which drives me a little nuts, which is what I can maybe partially control, or maybe today I controlled it, but yesterday I couldn't. But for example, you can control whether you take your medicine, but you can't control really whether it works, right? Those of us who've taken a medicine that worked for like 6 years and then stopped working, in my case, it's very frustrating. You can't control your automatic thoughts and feelings about your disease, but you can control how much value you give to them, right? You can't control others choosing to believe your words about your condition, but you can control the words you say. So learning to distinguish between what you can and can't control and accepting, it's like that serenity prayer, right? Accepting the things that are out of your control is key. And yes, Kristen, you're honing in on one of the hardest things for me is unexpected things and uncertain things. You wish you could wake up each morning and get a weather forecast about how you'll feel so you can better plan your day. Yes. Well, first of all, since your diagnosis in August, you are amazing for already reflecting on this. I'm telling you, it was like 12 years into my diagnosis that I really started learning about relinquishing control. So you are amazing for already thinking about this. Truly, I'm giving you a million points, because I was like, I remember literally, okay, I'm going to go a little over. I hope some of you have time, because I'm obviously not able to wrap this up. I have more slides that are really important on this topic. But one of my first times I went to therapy in 2013, after my son was born, I was like, my therapist was telling me about how, we have to learn about, how to cope with things out of our control. But I was like, no. I'm really good at control. I'm like amazing at it. I'm just here because I had a baby. I'm having like a little bit of postpartum issues, but like, I'm going to figure it out. And like, like flash forward 3 years later, still in therapy, like, okay, I'm figuring out that this is not, so the fact that you can, again, I'm sorry, I'm just giving you a lot of kudos, because that took me a really, really long time. And this is actually, I think that this next metaphor is going to be helpful for you, which is, the finger trap toy. So, I have one right here, the exact same one. Well, that's actually not my fingers though, by the way. That's an image from Canva, but I just happen to have the same color. So the stimulus is the things in our life that are causing us discomfort. And in this case, I'm going to say things out of my control that I dislike, which is literally anything out of my control I dislike. And our response is we can fight it and be like, okay, no, I got to control you. Or you can, and that's the pulling apart, and that's the way that builds more tension and you get stuck, right? Or you can relinquish the control. That's when you let go, you stop fighting against it, and you accept or allow the things out of your control. That is a more peaceful existence. But I think what's so hard, and this was what has taken me a long time to figure out, and I'm still figuring out every day, I have to reframe this to myself and remember that fighting or resisting things out of your control feels productive. It feels like you're doing something, right? And I like, why would I want to surrender? I remember the first time my therapist said, surrender. I'm like, surrender, what? Like, no, I'm a fighter, right? Everyone talks about fighting rheumatoid arthritis. I'm going to fight it. I'm going to conquer it. But surrender in the moment, we're talking about something called I'm circling around something called acceptance and commitment therapy, which is actually evidence-based for people with chronic pain to improve their quality of life. It's actually technically, okay, long story short, it's adjacent to cognitive behavior therapy, but it's like mindfulness and cognitive behavior therapy had a baby. That's acceptance and commitment therapy. And I call it the acceptance paradox, which is that at first it feels like giving up, like the word accepting, surrendering to the present moment feels like giving up, but actually it's the only thing that's going to open you up to what's possible in your life right now, not what might happen in the future, in this idea that we cling to. We want to cling to an idea that the future is going to be better, but it might not. The only thing we know for 100% sure is the present moment. So being able to accept and allow it, even when we're in pain, is the first step to then acceptance and commitment therapy. The first step is acceptance. The second step is connecting to your values, actually, and what's important in your life, and turning towards what's still possible in your life with pain, with chronic illness. Genevieve, learning to give up trying to manage what others choose to believe about your RA has also given you a lot of energy. Yeah, I'm very proud of you on that too. That's amazing. In acceptance and commitment therapy, acceptance means, I really like the definition of acceptance. It is taking what's offered. It doesn't mean liking it. It doesn't mean you want it. It just means that I'm making space for this. I'm going to allow it for right now, for this second and the next couple seconds, and then expanding to make room for it without resistance. You don't realize how much you're resisting the present until you actually try this. It's wild. And it does not mean giving up or resigning yourself to your fate or feeling hopeless about the future or neglecting to address the things you can't control. It's about, again, accepting, opening up to what's possible, what is present in the exact moment, what you're feeling in the moment. So that's a little teaser for acceptance and commitment therapy, which we do go a lot more into in the Room to Thrive, the self-paced course and the support group that I run. So I am going to just and again, I know that we're kind of, I'm going to go like 10 minutes over if you have time. If you don't, that's totally fine. But the bonus tool I would say is getting support, right? And that is what, my program is all about. This is a dramatic reenactment of what happens when you do it on your own versus support. So I started doing these webinars as part of my mission to help kind of create this orientation manual for rheumatoid arthritis, right? This is a job. It's literally a job to manage your condition, the appointments, the symptom tracking, the management on a daily basis. And some people are on their own amazing at it, right? They're like, I figured it out. I looked at all the websites and, I want to do it on my own. They're like the people that want to do like the self-guided tour or whatnot when they travel. But, a lot of people want like, hi, I want somebody who's been here before to help walk me through this a little bit. So I created this program, the Room to Thrive self-paced course and the support group program to help people walk through. There's these are two different visuals of the same thing. So it's starting with the physical tools, giving you the mental tools, social, and those CEAO tools, which is the executive functioning tools to learn how to manage your condition. So yeah, I think, Lauren, if you put in the actual link first, it'll show as a hyperlink. I don't know. I'm not sure. But so this is a lot, programmatic glance. So it goes into all of these, some of the people in this meeting today have already gone through it, but I have little pre-recorded lessons on all of these topics and with specific evidence throughout on what are the tools that are going to help you for your rheumatic condition. Some of these we touched briefly on today, but the course is more of like a deep dive. And then we have that's an option for you to go through on your own as a self-paced course, or you can go through with a support group. I need to update this picture. This picture I think is from 2021. I was in a cabin in Oregon at that time. But the support group is with a group of 16 or less people. Usually it's between like 10 and 12. And we meet, 3 times a month and live hour-long Zoom meetings. And we talk about like the topic of the week and do a little bit of Q&A. So it's not just a traditional support group. I call it like an educational support group where we talk and problem solve through these tools, but we also then have that open support time to just talk about what's going well, what's not going well. And it really has been an amazing thing for a lot of the people who've taken it. I want to be ethically, like, for me, I hold myself to a high ethical standard. So, I'm like, I want to tell you like who would not be a good fit for the program. Most people who do it, it's like they're self-selected into it, right? Because they're interested in it. I think the people who wouldn't be good in the program are people who are wanting like a healing program or something like I'm learning about one really specific modality. Like I want a program that's a 12-week program all about nutrition, but this is more the orientation of all the little topics that might help you in your life. So, it helps you stop that process of like spinning your wheels and overthinking everything, and helps give you that kind of, again, that guide to walk you through in a community. So that's what Suzanne said. And, Katie, oh, hi, Katie, feeling really lost and overwhelmed before, and then now getting that crash course. Oh yeah. Oh gosh, you guys are all saying nice things in the chat. Thank you so much. And, it does help you feel more confident when you have a group that you can go back to and problem solve and be like, okay, I have this appointment next week. Like, what do you think? How can I best prepare for it? Oh yeah, Justine, and yes, if you liked the oh, this is so great. I didn't tell anyone to say these things. Thank you. So the next groups are starting a week from Monday. So I kind of timed this webinar to make it so that anyone who took this webinar would know for sure and have a chance to join the groups if they want to. There's still spots left, but they do, I stop taking people when they're full. So, you can sign up through next Sunday, the 11th, or whenever they're full. And I'll keep people posted like how many spots there's 4 people in each group right now. So we have plenty of spots, and they always get to be about like 8, again, usually 8 to 12 by the time we start. And there's a Monday group that meets at 7:30 Eastern and a Tuesday at 5 Eastern. I sometimes do have an earlier in the day Pacific time afternoon European time zone. This time there just weren't a lot of people that wanted that time because I do a little survey of people on the wait list. So this is where you can sign up. And I think Lauren has a link. I do save half the spots for scholarships or reduced payment if people aren't able to afford the program at this time. You could do like a reduced payment. So yeah, and the group sessions are 1 hour. And right now they're going to be between February 12th and like June 15th or something like that, 3 meetings a month. So sometimes we'll skip 1 week. It's not every single week, but, and we often go over a little bit over an hour if we can. Oh, thank you, Lauren, for putting in the scholarship. Also, if you do the VIP ticket, you can get $60 off. It gives you like a discount code to get $60 off of Room to Thrive, if you would like. So I just want to make sure you knew all of that, because sometimes people will say, oh, I didn't even you just started a group. Like, I didn't know that it was open. So I try to not like spam people constantly about it, but I try to also let you know, because they are cohorts. So the groups, the self-paced course, you can join at any time and do it on your own. And then the groups are twice a year currently. So I do one of them in the spring, late winter, early spring, and the other one starts in September. So does anyone have any questions about that? Or thank you guys for your nice comments. You're making me so happy. But any questions about that or any of the other life hacks? Somebody asked me about a job interview. If you have someone, I think, sent me a private message. So back to just general questions. How do you do a job interview explaining how RA might affect the job duties? That's a really, really good question. So I always forget the legalities of this. In the US, I believe, does anyone remember whether you have to disclose at the initial job interview? You don't have to disclose if you need accommodations. Okay, you do not. Oh, thank you all. So for me, it's once you get the job, you could say, you know, I have a health condition that requires reasonable accommodations, and here's the accommodations that I need. And just being really straightforward about it. I mean, and understanding that the way that the American with Disabilities Act works is the accommodation has to be given as long as it doesn't cause like undue hardship on the company, and it's only for companies that is it over 25 employees. It doesn't apply to like small businesses that are like 5 people or whatnot. At the offer stage, thank you, Justine. All you're required to do is ask to speak with your HR about any accommodations. Okay, 25 or more. Oh, thank you. And okay, so yeah, you know, and oh, another piece of good advice that I've seen from others who've asked, I've fortunately never had to ask for formal accommodations. When I was on infusion-based medications, I did have to I just used my sick leave to do my infusions, and I was able to in my other jobs. One of the reasons I chose occupational therapy as a career is that it tends to have really flexible work hours, and the jobs I took, you're paid to do the amount of hours that they want you to do. They don't really care when you do them. So like, for example, I worked at a pediatric clinic where I did one Saturday, and then I had a weekday free so that I was able to then fit in my medical appointments and stuff like that there. But yeah, oh my gosh, there's 59 of you still here. Well, what else do we want to talk about? I mean, I'm not going anywhere so I can answer oh, sorry, that's just my reminder for my husband to take my son to piano lessons. But yeah, if you need to go, that is the official end of the official presentation. Thank you all so much for being here. But if there's anything else that you want that's on your mind, I can stick around for another 5 or 10 minutes. So I think people were waiting for me to dismiss them. Sorry. There's nothing more official that I'm going to be teaching you. Jenny is wondering, does anyone else have POTS? Oh, thank you. Thank you, Sheila and Ashley and Maggie. Anyone else with POTS and RA? Oh, thank you. Michelle is a single mom new to Washington. Oh, welcome to Washington. Oh, you're so nice. Thank you. Oh my gosh, thank you all. Questions. Okay, Danielle, yes. And then Jenny, I'll also
bring up an aspect that everything I keep learning over and over again with you. In fact, one of the reasons I keep doing your webinars is I have so much trouble with executive functioning, with planning and putting everything together. It can be something as simple as I have 2 or 3 jar openers, but no can openers. I have problems with planning, and this may be something to do, maybe I need therapy or more therapy, but I have problems with the strategic planning because of fatigue, brain fog, and I hurt. I just hurt.
Yeah.
So that's kind of a bit of an issue with me. I'm not a total dud with it, but it just seems like there's so much to think about and so much to put together. It's like even in dealing with exercise, I've had to ask myself this hard question. Does it make sense to pay people to do stuff for me and then turn around and spend my time exercising on something non-productive? So it's like I gave up my cart that I used to roll my groceries from the garage to the kitchen and did it by hand, and one shoulder benefited, the other shoulder didn't. But it's just the complications. It's kind of like you said, you wake up every day and it's like a boulder you have to keep rolling uphill. And if you even take a break from it, it rolls further back downhill and you have to try even harder. I don't know if I've said anything here cohesively, but that is kind of a little bit of what I'm struggling with is just executive functioning, remembering to do things leaving a pill that I'm supposed to be taking out of my pill box, and just I know I need to get up and go get the pills and put them in the pill box, but my spoons are gone for the day. So,
Yeah, and so I used to work a lot with children with executive functioning issues, either from from ADHD or brain injury. And what there's a saying in peds that is, you have to lend your child your frontal lobes, meaning like parents have to, or the teachers and people who help the child have to lend the child their frontal lobe. And in this case, it would be like, can you in executive functioning, there is a certain point where we have to start implementing the external supports. So reminders, alarms, not relying solely on your own executive functioning, but can you either in your environment, if there's anyone that you live with, and talking just generally speaking, if you have like someone in your family that can help you, lend you their frontal lobe, or when I say frontal lobe, I mean the part of your brain that's responsible for executive functioning. So there's always there's two-prong approach. The one is make the underlying problem better, which we don't have a lot of tools for improving your executive functioning. Other than exercise in rheumatoid arthritis is one of the only ones that I know of that's evidence-based, right? So then we have to do, if we can't improve the underlying variable, we have to compensate for it. So we have to compensate for it by using external supports, external reminders. Now, it gets meta because you're like, well, how do I remember to do the reminder? It's like the thing that's preventing you from doing it is the thing that prevents you from doing the strategy to help you do it. So that for me is kind of my approach. Does that help? I mean, I don't know if anyone else has any other executive sorry, the other remedial or way of making it better other than exercise would be like getting and trying an ADHD type medicine, which because people conceptualize my understanding is that psychiatrists and psychologists are conceptualizing ADHD nowadays as an executive functioning at large disorder, which attention is just one of their executive functions, maintaining sustained attention, shifting your attention from one thing to another. But that could be something that potentially is something that your medical team might want to try.
wish I could ask for more help, because a lot of times when my daughter does come over, she does do a lot of things that simplifies things for me. Like she just put the levers on the doors instead of the knobs when she was here 2 days ago. And so now I can get in and out of the door faster. But yeah, it's something I've got to work on. External reminders are a good thing. I usually only set up my pills once a week. So if I have a change in medication in the middle of the week, I can't tell you how many times I totally miss out on it. But then I always think, well, 3 days of being without this shouldn't be too much trouble. And then I start to hurt and I'm like, okay, it is too much trouble. So it seems also like there's just so much input. Like, is this medication helping today? Is this food helping today?
Yeah.
And I'm also having to choose to let go of things, like not so many plants, not so many crafts, not so many anything. So and then there's grief with that. But thanks for addressing that, Cheryl. I appreciate
Yeah.
it.
No, thank you for mentioning it. And I put in the chat a couple more things. I think the simplifying your life is a great I mean, it layers of grief to it, but it's a great tool. Another one I thought of as you were talking would be checklists. So there's a book called The Checklist Manifesto, which is like actually by a surgeon talking about like how checklists were implemented in like helping prevent like pilots from making errors, and how doctors started doing it too. And checklists are really helpful. Visual reminders and reminder apps on your phone. Those are things that I use. But I think you're right that simplifying your life, simplifying the daily demands can be really helpful too. But having something visually in front of you, like maybe your medication tracking being like on your the mirror in your bathroom or something where you can't forget it, you know what I mean? That can be super, super helpful. I want to make sure to also address that there's been a great discussion in the chat about POTS, postural orthostatic tachycardia syndrome, if you haven't heard of it. Jenny asked about that and about anyone who has POTS plus RA. I have dysautonomia and orthostatic hypotension, just like Genevieve, little twins there, but not POTS. I did get tested for that. But yeah, pacing can be really helpful. Lauren mentioned, and I mentioned an occupational therapist named Emily Rich who has POTS. And she has some great resources. But Jenny, did you want to ask anything else about that? People are giving other ideas in the chat. Okay, awesome. I've heard salt is good. gotta get your salt on. Oh, Lynn, the twisting the thing in the car. I have the keying. Yep, the keying is really helpful for twisting the key. Okay, Mary Ellen, what's on your mind?
So I'm about 2.5 months into a new med, and I just realized I'm not sure I know the difference between regular pain and a flare. And I'm trying to figure out, like, is this medicine working based on that? And I don't know how. I know that's probably too big of a question to answer in this.
No. What is a flare? There's no one definition of a flare. There's no one agreed upon definition of a autoimmune inflammatory arthritis flare-up. So that's one of the problems we have is that a flare-up is kind of like a catch-all term for a period of worsening symptoms. It could be a day. People judge flares by how intense they are of a worsening of symptoms, how many symptoms are affected, or how long it's lasting. So in your case, you're wondering if your new medication is working, and you're wondering are you wondering if like any remaining pain you're having is like a short-term flare, or is it a signal that your meds aren't working? Is that what you're thinking?
Yeah, I guess that's the question.
Yeah.
I'm playing whack-a-mole again because I finally found a med that doesn't give me the hives I got on my leg with every other one. But now I'm getting mouth sores, which I think is apparently
a thing. Yeah.
I didn't know that was a thing. So I'm like, do I want to stay on this med or do I not? And there's so many aspects to that choice. And I feel like I'm burning through them too quickly, which is another thing. So.
Yeah, I think, no, I mean, I've been there. Anyone else? That Neil says that's a great question. I'm going to put a link in the chat. In 2021, I did do a little, I don't even, Mary Ellen, you might have been there. I'm sorry if you were and it wasn't helpful, but I did a little webinar called Build Your Flare Up Toolkit. And it talked about,
no, I didn't do that. So
yeah, Build Your Flare Up Toolkit. It's, this is the, so it's like an hour and 10-minute webinar. Supposed to be an hour. It was an hour and 10 minutes.
Because people like me ask questions in her.
No. I told y'all I'm here. I have to take my son's at piano, and then we're going to hockey in like an hour. So that's the only thing. But my husband and my son knew. I was like, do not interrupt me unless it's very important. I
mean, I have a slightly complicated story because it's psoriatic arthritis, and they have enthesitis that and I don't think that necessarily means it's a flare, and that seems to be what bothers me more than anything else.
Yeah, so. A lot of rheumatologists nowadays, they're using what's called treat to target, which is, it's so strange that there's like this specific phrase for it, because it seems just like, isn't this like your job? But what it means is like treat to target is a strategy that defines a treatment target like remission or low disease activity and applies tight control, for example, monthly visits and treatment adjustment to reach this target. So it literally just means like making a goal of controlling the disease and reaching it and trying to reach it. Like, yeah, that's like what we should be doing. So, but treats, most doctors,
I don't want to put makeup on every day. I'm a makeup minimalist. I don't want to.
Someone's talking about makeup.
I clicked on your link and apparently it's playing the video.
Sorry. Oh, I was talking about makeup? Oh, that was probably an ad. Yeah, I don't know. I'm sorry. If you ever see anything weird on my like website or anything, but YouTube basically runs ads whether you make money for them or not. So I'm like, well, I'll make money from it as long as you're going to run it. So I do have like ads enabled on my videos. But the treat to target is kind of a shorthand for they're targeting. Usually they want to target like full disease control when you're in the earlier days. Like I'm 21 years into it. I had to have this conversation with a doctor. Like, are we targeting full remission? Like or are we targeting minimal disease activity? Like in our case, we're targeting minimal disease activity because it's not realistic for me to go, in her opinion, into full remission right now. But in the first couple of years of your diagnosis, they're usually like, no, we want to be aggressive. I don't know if Katie's still on, but I know she's been through this too, where it's almost like disorienting because you're like, wait, this is kind of working. But then the doctors are like, no, we want to be like more aggressive. Like we want you to be 100% symptom free.
Yeah.
So, to make life interesting, there's a variability between the rheumatologists. Some are more like minimal disease activity is okay, meaning, yeah, you have a little bit of the enthesitis pain. I always say that word wrong.
Me too. Yeah.
And others are going to be like, nope, we have any pain, that's a signal that we got to switch. We want to really control this. So clear as mud, like.
Right. No, but I mean, like, how many people on this call have no pain? I'd be curious.
Now, to be careful about is that this is not a representative sample
I know.
of people. But yeah, is anyone here in complete remission? I was for 6 years. So I mean, it is possible.
And I was a lot older when I got diagnosed than you were, and I was probably already at the moderate stage because I didn't know what it was. I thought it was osteoarthritis, whatever. But yeah. So
I mean, I think it's worth having like a come to Jesus talk with your provider and be like, I'd like to have you can even say like, we have an appointment where we just talk about what we are targeting and what is feasible and realistic in your opinion. Because the doctors are the ones that see a cross section. Then they can tell you, 80% of my patients are in full disease control, or 90%, or, whatever it is, people in your category who are diagnosed at X age with X severity of disease markers. This is why I'm targeting this for you. But if they haven't told you that, then you're going to feel like you're floundering a little bit or uncertain. And they'll be like, oh, well, I'm trying to be patient-centered. So I'm going to ask her, is this treatment good enough for you? You're like, well, I don't know because I don't know how much better it could be.
Yeah, because I don't know that. So I guess thank you for helping me frame it so I can get it better.
That would be you're giving me a good idea for like a blog post or like a video of like, here's how to have this conversation with your doctor. Because I think, and I know Maggie, you're married to a doctor. I don't know how many of you are either. There's maybe some doctors here. But sometimes it's like they think they've had the conversation and they haven't, because like they have so much additional knowledge in their head that they're using phrases that to them mean like all these connotations, and you're like, these are just words, like I don't know what you're talking about. So it's okay to advocate for having that conversation. Yeah, like Katie said, your room kept saying you're not having enough relief, which is like, thank you for advocating for better relief, but it's like medicine whiplash. And great idea, Katie, to start that conversation in the portal.
I do have one. I was just thinking that as she said that. Thank you, Katie.
But your rheumatologist said only ask questions in the portal that are yes or no. But be like, you could say in the portal, like, I am struggling to understand what is the target of our treatment. Like, you can literally use those words because that's what the words that are used in rheumatology, like at the conferences and everything. They're treat to target, treat to target, treat to target. They use it all the time. I don't know what my target of treatment is. Are we going for 100% no pain? Because we are not there right now, if that's what we're going for. Yeah. If we are not, what amount of pain? How much is what you would think is reasonable? I know you can't answer this over the portal, but I'm saying it to put the bug in your ear. And then can we please have an appointment for that? Yeah. Oh, your husband suggested that. Yeah. It's a doctor by doctor preference. Okay. Yeah. Okay. Cecilia. So Mariana, thank you for asking that. That is not a weird question. That's the question. Yeah. Hi, Cecilia. Or do you go by Cece? I don't know if you go by Cecilia.
Yeah.
Hi.
I asked this in the chat, but I'm going to ask it out loud just in case. I was diagnosed about 2 years ago, so I feel like I'm like a baby to this conversation.
Yeah.
But I'm curious about what you would say about symptom tracking. I like don't sort of have a good, I mean, I am also a control person, so maybe it's partly that, but I feel very sort of lost in the like how to think about like tracking symptoms and like what is a symptom anyway, and then like how to sort of like turn that into like like understanding how that's related to like, you know, outcomes and like how to, you know, and like people are saying like, oh, I can like predict flares at this point. And I'm like, like, is there an app you like, you know, that kind of stuff. So, you know, and I asked my doctor about apps and she was like, I don't know that stuff. I'm like, okay, cool. This isn't for you. Check, you know?
Yeah.
So,
Thank you. Well, I do always think it's a sign of a good provider if they know if they're willing to admit that they don't know everything. But yeah, so in the executive functioning part, I'm opening up my own slides here. In the executive functioning part of Room to Thrive, I have like an overview. So I'm just going to look at it to remind myself of what I said. What did I say when I was smarter a year ago? No. But the first thing to think about is, yeah, the symptom tracking is a means to an end, right? And it's something that it's like we talked about with nutrition, that it can become like an obsession. So for people who have maybe, and I'm saying about myself, control freak tendencies, that it gives you this illusion of control. And so it is a complicated thing. I think the the goal of symptom tracking is to help you correlate between variables. If I do X, does this symptom get worse or better? So if you're overwhelmed with symptom tracking, I always say to start with one hypothesis at a time. Like a simple example would be if I'll use an example of exercise. If I do 20 minutes on exercise a day, 20 minutes a day on the exercise bike at X intensity, is my pain going to be better? And then you just track each time you do it. You can track your pain like immediately after, maybe an hour after. That's the goal, right, of symptom tracking. It can also be used or tracking in general. You could use tracking apps to track not just symptoms, but like actions you've taken, like medicines, for example, or your lab results. So, oh yeah, you have a suggestion if you do. Oh yeah, no, Katie, why don't you share? And I'm gonna get together some other ideas. Katie, you want to share?
Yeah, sure.
Hi.
Hi. Sorry, I am very here, but if I turn my video on, my internet gets wonky. So, Cecilia, I am about the same amount of time into my RA diagnosis. But I have another chronic illness that I've had longer. And so like, you know, this like kind of turned upside down for me of like trying to understand like which symptoms were what, because there's some overlap with like, especially pain. And so I never like tracked my symptoms with my other illness because like I just knew it from the back of my hand, you know, but like RA was like so new for me that I found like I had to symptom track. And so I'm going to put in the chat, I feel like we've had these conversations in graduate meetings before where like everyone is so particular about how they prefer to symptom track. So like this is just one idea, but a colleague had told me about the Good Notes app, which I'm sure is like really normal, but it was new to me, about just making everything digital. And so I got this planner. I just put it in the chat. It's from Etsy, and I did it digitally through the Good Notes app so that I could put all of my medical binder stuff like essentially electronically, so I wasn't carrying around a whole thing. But this particular, and there's of course 100, you know, like it, but what I like about this particular checker is there's just lots of wiggle room to be like, is this a symptom? I don't know. I'm going to start tracking this, you know, versus like, here are the 5 symptoms we're telling you, you probably have: fatigue, pain, like, you know, it allows you to customize it very to you and not feel like married to have to keep it that way, you know? So anyway, just a suggestion, but everyone I feel like is super particular about like, oh, I want it all an app. I need it pen and paper, but I don't symptom track every day, but especially when I'm trying to be like, what is, and I, you know, I was going to say this to Mary Ellen, what is a flare versus what is pain? Like, it's so hard. Like the only way I figured that out was symptom tracking, because otherwise I was like, I have no idea, you know what I mean? Because I can't tell which is which is what. So that's just my 2 cents of a suggestion to look into. It's not too expensive if you want to just like peek at it, you know.
Totally. Thanks. Yeah. I remember when my kid was born trying to do those trackers about like breastfeeding and sleeping and stuff. And like, I did it for 2 days and was like, oh, this is bad for me. We have to stop.
Yeah.
So like, I just have like a worry that it's like that, but also like, maybe it's very different. I don't know. Cause it's like not wrapped up in like baby shit. But who knows?
Oh, that was one of the first things my postpartum therapist, my son was like 13 months old and I was still tracking every single diaper change, every single food. And she was like, why are you doing this? Like asking in a very neutral way. And I was like, because I have to, because I do it. This is what I do. This is what I do. This is because if I don't do it, I won't feel control. And if I don't have control, I will die. So yeah, I think first of all, the fact that you know yourself and you know that, you could get wrapped up in it or it can make things worse is really key. I mean, I use it as a tool to like answer a question. Like it's like, is my sleep correlated to my pain? Is my sleep correlated to my fatigue? Is my mental health correlated? Like, I think once you get, I think starting slow and starting with just a couple of variables is the manageable way to go. But some people are all or nothing. So it is about knowing yourself. Some people are like, I want to track everything all the time. I think tracking can be a fool's errand at the end of the day because we feel like we have some control over these things when really, I think there's a book that really kind of changed my life called Fooled by Randomness, which is kind of about how like so many things in our life that we think are under control aren't really. So I have mixed feelings about tracking. But yeah, you love that book too, Kelly? Okay. So I would say, I don't know. Sorry.
Yeah. No, this is actually really helpful to hear other people be like, I don't know, maybe. So like, actually, that's like actually very affirming. So thank you.
Oh, good.
And thanks. I'm going to read like what people wrote in the chat, but I wanted to listen and now I'm going to read. Thank you.
Yeah. No problem. Yeah, I guess it's like this is a uncertainty support group of like, we don't know if what we're doing is right. All I know is I definitely tend to have this idea that everyone else is doing things better than me and like everyone else has life figured out and like we're all actually a hot mess and like that's just like what I need to hear every single day. And so honestly, I think that's the best thing about social media, right? I mean, some people are still on social media being like, my life's perfect. But like a lot of people now are more like, this is a mess, we're gonna be messy together. And yeah, Katie, we could build a Google Doc of ideas for tracking. That would be amazing. But yeah, know that it's definitely, I can tell you definitively, it is not the case that everyone has tracking figured out. They don't. We all try different things. I have found it exhausting to try to track everything. So I don't. But I do think if I was earlier, it's easier for me to say this long in the diagnosis because I have identified certain triggers like the sunlight and the heat, those are things identified just through like the severity, to be honest. It was so obvious, like I feel really, 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 really bad right now, but yeah, so I'm glad this was helpful. I think I have this feeling in the back of my head. Now tell me if I'm wrong, that the author of Fooled by Randomness, did something weird come out about him? Someone tell me if that's wrong. So I just think this book is good. But there might, in the back of my head, I'm having some sort of memory that like maybe someone said that like his ideas are wrong or something, but whatever. I guess everything has some sort of controversy. Oh no, it was Deanna Riley. Never mind. That's another author that talks about randomness. Okay, Alex.
Hi.
Hello.
Can you hear me?
Yes, I can hear you. Yeah.
Thank you so much for this webinar. It's been amazing. It's not the first one I attend, and always very informative. And I'm gonna try to make it fast so you can log out at some
that's
point.
Okay.
So I've been diagnosed like 3 years ago, around that time, and maybe more than that, a little bit more than that. And I actually have a seronegative arthritis that resulted from Crohn's disease. So I don't know if that makes a difference, but like everything has been better. I've been learning a lot, and like they're really and then since I was diagnosed, I've been on sick leave and I haven't worked, and everything is better. But now I'm still struggling with the fatigue. It's a learning progress. Actually, it's getting better and better, but I still like need help like doing chores, cooking. I have like relatives who help me with that, just like taking care of like my disease myself and the scheduling and all of that, and dealing with my insurance has been
Oh my
hell.
gosh. Yeah.
So yeah, but like it's slowly getting better and better, maybe just not fast enough like for my insurance. And I'm starting to have like trouble with my rheumatologist. Oh my god, so cute.
Oh, sorry. He responded. He wants to say hi. He's real. He's
So
alive.
um so my rheumatologist has to sign like these paper to my insurance to let them know that like, yes, I still cannot go back to work even though they're pressuring like every 3 to 4 months, something like that. And my rheumatologist is like getting a little bit more like tired with signing these things. They're like, I don't know where your fatigue comes from. Like all of my other patients, like they're working, they're raising kids. I don't have kids. I just have to take care of myself and have people helping me. And she's like, it's like she's asking me like what the problem is. Like I'm the doctor, and she's feeling more and more uncomfortable like writing on the paper that it's due to arthritis, because my Crohn has been really responding well, but I had trouble. Like even now, my symptoms are more related to the arthritis. And she's like, I'm uncomfortable writing that the cause of your sick leave is arthritis anymore, because like your joint pain is better, everything's better, it's just a fatigue, even though it's progressing. It's not there, and I don't have any other patient like you. And the thing is, I cannot work. So this is very stressful for me, because if my rheumatologist stops signing the papers, then I will lose my private insurance, but I can't work. So like I don't know if there's a way to address this, because like even I have like the brain fog, I have all these things, but it is getting better and better. So I'm just keeping at it and keep exercising and like making the span like so I can do a little bit longer the things that I do. So for me, I'm not desperate. I'm like, oh, I just need to be patient. I have to accept that this is my journey. But the doctors are like impatient, and the insurance
Yeah.
and I don't know how to address this. I don't know if that makes sense.
I'm so sorry that you're going through this. People in the chat are saying this is so, I mean, what she's doing is invalidating what you're feeling. I think she's being honest that maybe she's saying, look, like typically in my patient population that has what you have, the fatigue is not as severe. So I'm not really sure why it's happening. But that said, unfortunately, when it comes to like these disability paperwork type things and sick leave paperwork, they kind of it's almost like you're on trial and they're like thinking that you're faking it or something. And
Exactly.
I feel so defensive for you. I'm sorry. I'm like working through my own emotions, because I'm like, no one wants to feel this way. Like you're not doing this so that you could go frolic at home and be like, ha ha ha, I get to be on sick leave and just do whatever I want. Like that's not what you're doing. I'm trying to remember who it was in the room, one of the Room to 5 groups that verbatim said what you said. Like they're like, the doctor said none of the other patients, I think it might have been, I think I know who it was. I'm not gonna say that name. I do keep things confidential in the group unless people share it publicly. They were like, the doctor said no one else who has what you have has this bad of fatigue, and I don't know why you're not. Fatigue isn't better, but like, I can't write this note based on I don't think your fatigue is from this. I do think one thing to I should have put this in the slides. I always immediately after I do a presentation, I'm like, I should have put this in the slides. The European League Against Rheumatism, which is a funny name, but EULAR 2023 guidelines on fatigue. They're the first professional association that put guidelines for fatigue out there for inflammatory arthritis. But this is basically validating, this document to me validates the fact that the fatigue is from the disease, right? So that's a good starting point and a resource for you. I also think in your case, I would wonder if they think you maybe do have a comorbid condition like of chronic fatigue syndrome. So yeah, there's no measurement tool that I'm aware of that can say for sure that your fatigue is from your inflammatory arthritis versus maybe another condition like chronic fatigue syndrome, in which case maybe having that diagnosis could help with the paperwork too, because then they could say, okay, well, she has inflammatory arthritis and chronic fatigue. Does that make sense?
Yeah, no, it makes sense a lot. And like my rheumatologist like did sign the papers, but like every time I feel like this may be the last time that she signed it. So it's just like how to convince her. But I will definitely take a look at the link that you had, and then maybe because like my rheumatologist like says, yeah, like fatigue is related, you're always gonna have to deal with it, but like this, because I'm 30, and she's like, you're too young to like be this fatigued, you don't even have kids, you don't like, it doesn't make sense that it's this much fatigue and it's taking this long. But honestly, like I've never refused any treatment she proposed. I even tried to get people talking about the Wellbutrin. Like I tried it, but for me, like it ruined my sleep, so I couldn't take that. Like I've tried so many things, and then it's still like it feels like the burden is on me, and I expect like the insurance company to do that. I'm sorry for the noise behind me, there's like renovation or something.
Oh, that's okay.
But like the it feels like the burden is put on me. Like the insurance will do that and understand that, but like for my doctor to like waiting for me to give the justification about why I'm this fatigued, like I'm like, you're the doctor. So it's like she doesn't know what to do anymore, and like she has anxiety or something about it, and she's like putting it on me, and I don't know how to put this in a nice way without getting into an argument or something, because like she's actually like a nice doctor, but like with this she's helped me with a lot of things, but this is the thing. And I don't know how to like explain to her that like, please stop putting the burden on me. I do not know why I'm this tired. Like you're the one who's supposed to help me. It's just the rephrasing it, and but I know it's like a very specific thing. Maybe there isn't, but if she just have some tips or something like that.
Yeah, I mean, so there's the workaround strategy, which is getting a second opinion, because no, that's why second opinions kind of are out there, right? Because not every doctor is the right fit for you. And so that is one option. I don't know where you live, if there's other rheumatologists there. The second one would be, I'm thinking in like thank you, Prakash. I'm thinking about this in my like almost like mediation mindset. I'm a middle child, so I'm always like trying to like be the peacemaker and like literally, and actually this has been recorded, so we can go back and you can go back in the recording and be like, the way that you presented it to me, it all makes logical sense. So if you reframe it, or if you restate the kind of the bullets that you've said to us, but in a way of like, you and your doctor are a team. So like, okay, so what I'm hearing you saying is that you don't know why my fatigue is still so bad. And is there anything that we can do like as a patient doctor collaboration? What is it? Patient, yeah, what's the word? Patient partners. It's on the top of my head. Oh, shared decision making. So shared decision making is one of these other catchphrases like tree to target that's supposed to be associated with better outcomes in like rheumatology. So if you say like I think we both have the same goal, right? Which is for me to feel, or maybe say I can, okay, sorry, I'm thinking out loud. Say, I really want to get my fatigue to a manageable level to where I can work. It's really important to me to work. This is not a case of medical malingering. I just want to be 100% clear about that. You know, that I'm not, and do you know what I'm saying? Like you can be just very, very upfront and clear that like, I want to work. I want to feel less fatigued. Like, is there, and we've tried, here's as a summary, the XYZ things we've tried. We've tried Wellbutrin, we've tried the medicine for my arthritis. Is there anything else you would recommend? Or is it time to bring in another specialist? Should I see a neurologist? Maybe you concurrently should be evaluated for MS. You know, maybe you should be evaluated for ME/CFS, chronic fatigue syndrome. Like, make it clear to them that this is a problem that you're actively trying to solve, and say like, if you don't have anything else for me, do you have a recommendation of where I can go? Is there another rheumatologist who maybe specializes more in fatigue? Do you know what I mean? Like, does that sound maybe reasonable?
That makes a lot of sense, actually. I haven't thought about the referral to another specialist. I think even me, like I've been putting, because I didn't have any energy, like the Crohn's and arthritis, I got the diagnosis at the same time. Like they came together, they were buddies, they're twins. So yeah, but I think the referral is a good idea. And actually, like just to say, like the reason why my rheumatologist keeps like signing like for the last 3 years is because I've been very upfront and like every time being very proactive, and I've been looking for like professionals on the side. Like I work with a kinesiologist that work like with older people, so they know, like I've been taught how to climb the stairs without hurting my knee. So I've been reaching out specialists, and I think that's encouraging her and like believing me that I'm actually like very serious about this. So that's been working. So if somebody else, this is a great tip if somebody else hasn't done that. But the referral like to a neurologist, something like that, I think that would be a great idea, because maybe that's it. Maybe she gave me what she could, and now somebody else needs to help me, and I need that referral. So that makes a lot of sense. Thank you.
Yeah, and Lauren had a good idea to look up a second opinion or checking on other labs. Lauren said for her vitamin D deficiency can make her fatigue worse. So see if maybe they could look, and since you have Crohn's, you know, maybe there's something in your GI tract where there's like a vitamin that's not being absorbed enough. Obviously, I'm not an expert in knowing what that would be, but other than vitamin D, I mean, this is why a lot of people end up going to like integrative health practitioners, like a naturopath or something like that, because, and you know, there's huge quality control issues in like naturopathic physicians, but sometimes they are the ones that will actually listen to you and try to like uncover what could be happening. But I would consider that on the table. If I were you, I would just really proceed with caution. I found a naturopath in the Seattle area that has actually an autoimmune condition and treats it with Western medicine along with, you know, complementary and alternative. So that made me feel more comfortable, because I really didn't want a doctor that was like anti-medicine, because that just does not make sense with my condition. And I don't really think that clinically I don't really think that that's ethical. So yeah, unfortunately she had to step away from her clinic now because she is not doing very well physically. But it's Dr. Trina Seligman in Bellevue. And maybe, you know, maybe she will open. What? Oh, oh my God. I'm so sorry. I'm looking at her website. She passed away. Oh my God. What? Oh, freaking heck. Okay, I'm not going to process this with you all. But that is shocking. I'm so sad. She was amazing. Yeah, she had ulcerative colitis. I guess she had to have a double lung transplant. But she had been referring doctors to, oh my God. Okay, I gotta write her family a letter. Anyway, I'm so sorry. I was just opening up her website to send it to you and found out that she died. That's so horrible. But back to you, Alex. I'm going to compartmentalize for a second, but you know, looking
It's
into,
okay for you to take a minute. Like this
yeah,
is
thank you. No,
it's okay. Take your
you're so
time.
sweet. You're so kind. Yeah, consider other specialists. Your rheumatologist is not the only one. You know, there are other people that can definitely help. So, yeah, good luck. And I'm sorry, some people in the comments mentioned medical gaslighting. You know, if you've never heard of that, that's something to look up, because it can help you feel less alone, to realize that, like, I call it like accidental medical gaslighting, because I don't think that most of the times the doctors are like using it as an abuse tactic. Like, I'm telling her that she doesn't really have fatigue, but I actually think she does, and I'm just trying to make her feel crappy. It's more that they don't believe that what you're experiencing is what you're experiencing, and it ends up having that abusive effect on you to feel, you know, medically gaslit. So, yes, and yeah, her clinic is referring to another on the website. So I'm going to send you a Dr. Hosey is she is a physician's assistant who also has Sjogren's, and she experienced medical gaslighting. She talked a lot about it on her on that episode. But with all that in mind, actually with the time too, Charlie's just about to get home, so I should probably wrap it up. But thank you all. I'm sorry for just being like, oh my God, my old naturopath died. That's really, it's horrible. It's so really sad. But you know, that is what it is. So yeah, thank you all so much. And yeah, we will send you the recording, link to the PDF, slides, and later on a link to the things discussed in the chat. And there, you could still upgrade to the VIP ticket if you want to get that digital goodie bag of discounts on things, including the Room to Thrive. You could still do that now, like even afterwards. And it's going to include the link to the recording as well for people who sign up for it later. But this is the link for the VIP ticket. So yay. Thank you all so much. Thank you really for all your contributions and your links and your ideas and your support for each other. Katerina, it's good to see your face. Yay. I haven't seen you in a while. And thank you so much. And I miss you all. I haven't seen in person in a while. And we will see you maybe at the next one. I like to do these webinars a few times a year. So thank you all. Sending lots of Taylor Swift hearts your way.
Thank you very much.
Thank you. Bye, Katie. Yay. Bye. Thank you.